Okay, guys. Sorry, I actually got the time wrong. I was just thinking 1:30, and we're actually a couple of minutes late. But anyway, here we are. Welcome, Teri. Good to see you here. What time did you arrive home?
Oh, let's see. I got back about 7:30 tonight. I tried to make it back before dark, so about 7:30. Long day.
And you were there for
30. I tried
2 days,
to make
right?
it back before dark, so oh shoot. About 7:30. Sorry, hang on a second.
day.
I gotta close my
And you were there for
Okay.
2 days, right? Rookie mistake. Are you there?
I am here. The YouTube was on my
Well, don't worry, it's sorted out. So you spent 2 days there. When did you arrive there? Yesterday, or you arrived there the night before and slept in the camp, right? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm getting a delay of about like 15 seconds. So it's
Okay, I did actually set the audio to play. Let me maybe unset that. But anyway, talk us through when you went there and what you did there.
Yeah, okay. I think it might be better now. Sorry about that, you guys. Let's see. I left yesterday afternoon. I got it. Can you hear me? Okay. It's my earbuds didn't know who to listen to, my phone or you here. So, okay. The celebration started about 1:00 yesterday. I was about an hour late getting there. I kind of wanted to be a little bit fashionably late just so I could stand just on the outskirts and get an idea of what I just didn't really know how that event would be. And it was very well attended. It was hard for me to even find a parking spot when I got there. So I was really encouraged by that. And it was pretty much in full swing. It's sounding like I've heard a tiny bit of chatter just in the comment sections. I guess there was some live streaming of that going on. I didn't see any media there at all, so whoever would be live streaming it would have just been somebody like me, I guess. But apparently I missed all of the friends talking and all of that, so that's fine with me. I really felt like I was just called to be there just for the family. So I got there.
I think there was media there based on this article. I could be wrong. This is from the Reno Gazette Journal. Couple of photos taken there. There's another one. So I think, as far as I know, there may have been one reporter there.
Yeah, and I did see him. He was kind of a wiry guy in a plaid shirt that was hopping around. I thought he was just taking still pictures. I didn't see, there wasn't anyone like a video camera set up or anything. There was just one guy kind of bouncing around.
Well, I must say, I've been a full-time photographer myself. To be honest, I really, although you can make a lot of money of them, I really hate weddings. I just find it, I don't know, I don't enjoy them. But funerals are the absolute worst. Fortunately, I've never been asked to photograph a funeral. I would just find that incredibly awkward, like trying to capture people's grief, And I appreciate the way that you were very low key, just basically looking and observing. And those watching it, we're not going to put up any images of the kids there. We really just want to talk about, you met Lindsey, right? You met Lindsey. You actually met Daniel a little bit later. We'll talk about that a bit later. Do you want to take us through meeting Lindsey, like, what that was like.
Yeah, like you said, I stood back for quite a while, just kind of leaning against a tree, kind of just taking it all in, slyly just observing who was there, if there was anybody I recognized. And it's a really beautiful amphitheater. I'll just set the stage a little bit. Just a natural amphitheater in the woods where these trees just kind of naturally come down into a slope, and a beautiful stage back there with the backdrop. The train goes by behind it, and just huge trees everywhere. It's just a really neat spot to be in. And it was easy for me just to kind of blend in. I wore my tie-dye skirt. Everybody had nice dresses, and it was just kids were twirling and dancing. And I mean, by the time I got there, it was happy. It was a celebration. There was music playing. Her music teacher was there. One of her teachers read some poetry. It was very metaphysical, I guess, just almost like a,
I kind of got a Buddhist vibe, like with the prayer
yes,
flags. Yeah.
yep, the prayer flags definitely. And there was a statue, and just really a lot of connecting with earth. So I mean, it definitely has a hippie vibe, but then also I don't know how to put it really, just really in touch with the earth, very spiritual, meditative type of vibe. And I saw pretty quickly where Lindsey and Tony were sitting right down in front, and the only paved little kind of curved seat area.
Because
And
Tony really embodies that. He looks like kind of a hippie. I mean, he's got a very laid back, earthy vibe, right?
absolutely, I mean, if I couldn't tell from pictures when I saw him in person, and he walked toward me, it was like he just looked like he was on a beach, like barefoot, just so casual, just so comfortable with their place in the world. And they've found their people, and it's, just that sense of community was just overwhelming.
So I
I
want
wanted to
to.
be a part of it as much as I could. I felt a little bit like a poser, but I definitely fit in with my skirt and all of
Oh,
that. And
okay.
just tried to be
I just want to.
careful.
I just want to interrupt you for a second, just to
Yeah,
make a general true crime observation. And I know there are going to be people who really hate me saying this, but it's just an observation. Some of the last three true crime cases that we covered, Gabby Petito, Caitlin Armstrong, and this one, all three have a kind of a hippie vibe about it. Now, I'm not trying to say hippie vibe equals crime. I'm just saying, I don't know whether it's the fairy tale of the hippie vibe that gets so horribly interrupted by tragedy, that if that is what captures the imagination of the true crime community. I'm just saying it is something that is common to certainly those three cases, right? There's even to some extent a hippie vibe in Depth versus Heard, right? And it's almost like this weird thing that in the middle of this hippie vibe, that fairy tale sort of disaster sneaks up. You know what I mean?
and you're absolutely correct. And that made me think of that Kylan and Crystal and Moab too, around the same time as Gabby.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Okay,
interesting
so
perspective.
tell us about meeting Lindsey, what you said, what she said, what your impressions were of her, what you gave her.
Yeah, I just, I had my backpack on and my long tie-dye skirt, and just really tried to immerse myself. I listened to everything the presenters were saying, and watched everybody, and people kept going up and approaching Lindsey, and I just didn't want to walk down the grassy knoll and be standing over her so there was a time that they left and got up, and actually she was coming right toward me, like she was going to walk right by me. And I'm like, now's the time, so I'm fumbling in my backpack because I had something to give her. And we just met eyes just with her crossing, and I just said her name. I just said, Lindsey, I have something for you. And I just know that strangers right now can be really mean. And I want you to know that there are communities out there of people that truly care. And she just looked straight, deeply into my eyes, and just, you could see the caring. And she asked me my name. That was the first thing she said. So I told her, and then she addressed me by name and just said, thank you so much. And she just grabbed me and brought me in, and we just like cried. Like, just, it was, I mean, just never had a hug with a stranger like that. I mean, guess maybe if you're, right there when a tragedy is happening, maybe an accident or so, there's just not too many times in life when you just embrace
Yeah.
a stranger. So I just started crocheting recently. I'm not very good, but I started this project a couple of weeks ago. It's Nick's got the picture up there. It's just a big scarf that you just kind of wrap around you. And as the colors were going, I thought, man, that definitely has a Truckee vibe to it.
Totally. No, I mean, you nailed the vibe. You nailed the hippie in that, definitely.
Well, and I didn't even start that for her. It's just as the colors evolved, and then I just happened to finish it yesterday morning before I left, and I was like, the yarn was right at the end, and I'm like, this, I didn't know it, but I made this for her, and I put a note on it that just said, this is, a hug from a stranger, and she just grabbed it and held it and smelled it and just was very, very thankful. So, I mean, the whole interaction was maybe 2 minutes, but it was pretty powerful, like everything else there. So I don't know. I felt like maybe that was the place I was supposed to be right then. And I imagine they're seeing a lot online, and
Yeah. I just want to touch
hopefully
on
not everything.
Kerry, I want to touch on what Ashley says. We want to know what the conversations were between you and others, what people were saying who spoke, who was acting weird or odd. We're not going to do that. We're not going to talk about who was acting weird, like who was the suspect at the funeral. We're not going to do that. One thing I do want to know is, I believe Sammy spoke. I don't really know much about that. And Daniel wasn't there. Is that right? Daniel, her biological father, wasn't there.
What I believe just what I've only read a couple things, but I think all the friends spoke at the beginning. So with me being an hour late, I missed all of that.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking there's probably a reason for that, that I just wasn't, I can't have an opinion either way. I can tell you if somebody acted odd, or
No, but
anything.
we actually don't want to do that. So I think there are people here that want to see photos of Mags and to see Jagger at the funeral. We're not going to be doing that. You may also notice with the article in the Reno Gazette Journal, you don't see photos of people crying. It's done in a very respectful way. So, if you're looking for someone who was running around at a funeral with their cell phone taking photos of these teenagers, you're not going to get that here. So I don't know if you guys get how inappropriate that is. I also want to talk a little bit about a friend of mine died about almost 10 months ago now, 10, 11 months ago. And they also had the celebration. It was also quite sort of festive, not nearly as much as this. But he has two daughters. One is about 17, 18, another one a little bit older. And I didn't go to the funeral, just sort of in the middle of the COVID thing. And I felt the celebration was in its own way perfect. And although I was very sad not to be there, I thought, if I had been there, I think it would have been a bit of a downer because I would have been quite serious at the funeral. But at the same time, I've got to say, I couldn't help thinking that they were very naive about death. Death, you can have a celebration on, but death persists. And I think you've got to acknowledge it in a way. But even though I felt that, I thought I don't want to impose that on them. If they're choosing to do it that way, then that's their choice. I'm not going to impose anything on them. So, but it did really strike me how vulnerable young people are in the face of death. I mean, we all are, but especially young people. My friend's youngest daughter was saying, she was trying to figure out what to say at her father's funeral. And she said, in a very casual, light-hearted, kind of charming way, but also very naive, she said she was sitting in the bath and it sort of came to her. And I think she Googled something like what to say at a funeral. And what she said was you know, it touched you, but it was something that she Googled. And in other words, there's very little actual facing this very hard thing to face,
Mm-hmm.
and so when you see that, you realize just what a fragile situation that really is. You may be dancing, you may be, what's the word? It may look like you're on top of it, but death is definitely the hardest thing you're ever going to have to face. And you can imagine if it's touching us and it's so tragic. Um, when I say us, I mean some people in the true crime community. I think there are a lot of people who really aren't touched by it. They simply see it as an opportunity. But I certainly see it as almost like this death of America's daughter, and that whole smoke above the amphitheater, but also the reservoir, spoke to me a little bit about the haze, the murk that is surrounding this whole case. It was like emblematic of this smokiness that is permeating this case. I thought it was quite weirdly symbolic, right?
Definitely, definitely.
There's like an unreality about it. The sun is a different color. Everything is a kind of a different color because of the smoke. Everything smells different. Everything looks different.
Yeah, I mean, it's like looking through a different kind of lens that you're not used to, and I think that's what they're feeling there in that town, and it was very powerful. I know that, and I was trying to think of your other question. Oh, Daniel, the dad was there.
Oh, was he there?
Yes, he only got to see, he said like the last half hour or so.
Okay.
He wanted to be there from what he told me, but he had another more important place he felt called to. So unfortunately, he had to miss that. But just seeing the way that Lindsey carried herself, I spent a lot of time watching her before and trying to get up the nerve to maybe approach her, but it just made me think about my relationship with my mom, and their bond is so apparent. I don't feel that I've had that with my mom. I mean, maybe over time we've built up to that, but at 16,
Yeah, I must say I think a big difference between, and I'm speculating here. I'm not a dad, and I never homeschooled, but I reckon the bond between homeschooled kids and their parents is far more stronger and more sort of secure in a way than kids that go to. I'm not saying that you won't have a bond. I'm just saying I think it tends to be a lot stronger because you are one-on-one with them every single day. You follow their growth, and you are, I think often in normal, I don't know if that's the word, if normal is the word, but in typical education situations, I don't know if you remember it, you spend more time in a way as a kid with your teacher than with your parents. You go to
yes,
school, and you come back and your parents are at work or they're doing whatever, and your one-on-one time, your teachers in a way get to know you better than your parents do over that particular period, but not so with homeschool. With homeschool, you get that real relationship, which is so important um, in this disconnected society where the nuclear family is so fragmented, even more so by, social media and all that. Robin asks, can someone tell me who's Lindsey? Lindsey is Kiely's mother.
Yeah, I don't want to overshare, so I'll try to be careful what I say here. But Lindsey did do I guess you'd call it the eulogy, but I mean this was definitely a celebration and not a memorial. But she had about 10 minutes where she went up there, and it was just like a symphony of experiences. She just really just framed her life into, I mean, she'd saw the Northern Lights in Iceland. She went scuba diving in the Galapagos. Like, this girl was very well traveled. She'd been, I guess, to Mexico even recently within just the last couple months, like twice. So she has a lot of global experience. And I mean, the way her mom spoke was just so poetic. It took everybody in attendance was just hanging on her words. And it's like she took us down through these valleys and up over these mountains, and they're swirling and twirling, and the wind would pick up at the right time. And then the train whistle blew, and it was just, I don't know. I've just never experienced anything quite that emotional and grounding.
That poetry that you talk about comes through in the, when Kiely was found, they put up I think an Instagram or something acknowledging that. You could tell the poetry there, talking about the sun coming up, and the light. You also see it to some extent in the art of the celebration poster. It's very cerebral. It is very, there's something very fresh and earthy about it. Also very free spirited about it. And I think, you took some photos of Truckee. I just want to bring one up here. There's a good one. The whole point of Truckee, let's just share that here. The whole point of Truckee is it is free spirited. It's adventure, right? And so in a way, what Kiely was doing was she was having an adventure. She was going out and adventure is about taking risks. It's about, going out into the unknown and thrills and all that kind of thing. And it tends to be fun. You skiing and climbing mountains and being in the outdoors is all that. But then sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes bad things happen. And I'm just saying, within this place, which is all about being a free spirit, all about adventure, Kiely was actually having a little bit of an adventure, right? Mm-hmm. That ended in a disaster. There are a lot of people who don't want to accept that she simply got lost, that she took a wrong turn. That often is what happens when you go skiing on a mountain you don't know very well, or doing something in the dark, whatever. Anyway, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Your experience going there, could it have been a wrong turn, what the roads look like, and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You sent me a text while you were there saying, wow, the energy here is indescribable. What did you mean by that?
It felt like every person there was connected, really. I mean, people that were speaking would ask you to look up at the trees, be quiet, be quiet, be still for a minute, hear the wind. If there's a neighbor close enough to you, touch their hand, give them a hug. It was, and I know people right now are going to say, oh, it was a big kumbaya thing. It really wasn't like that. It meant a little something different for every person there, but I felt that community fiercely defending this hurting family, these hurting kids. And I have to be careful what I say, because I'm gonna make some enemies here. But I mean, you can say all you want behind a screen, but I can't imagine anybody, no matter what your opinion is on this, walking into that environment and leaving with that same opinion. And I mean, I've been in, I've had a lot of experiences in life. I'm not just being snowballed by anything. It was just indescribable. I felt very blessed to be there. I did immerse myself so I didn't feel like an outsider. I wanted to be.
It did feel like from what I saw, it did feel like a special community. It felt very unique, and you get a bit of a sense from this picture. Not only the prayer flags, there's also the whole idea of nature that frames all of this. But you can't really see it here that well. But the whole idea was like a um, amphitheater kind of in nature, and the kids were dancing, and it was a very hippie. You know, I like I say, a friend of mine, his funeral was also a celebration, but it was quite. Although they sang songs as well, it was all under a tent, right? So it was all somewhat hemmed in, I guess. um, this was like very free. It was almost like a rock concert in a way,
It really was. There was a lot of music. They went through. They carefully picked out artists and songs that she liked. So there were several different groups or bands, artists that came up there, and I guess she really likes Alan Jackson. So somebody was doing more like country vibe, and then there was a lot of bluegrass because that's pretty much what she played with her family. Her musical instruments were out on the tables, and then toward the end, when it started getting geared a little bit more toward the teens, they're like, well, her favorite Sublime. So we're definitely so a
Yeah.
little bit younger, more punk kind of vibe. But I mean, little kids,
Definitely.
old people dancing to these basically like punk rock songs, surfer punk songs. And
Yeah.
I know that band. I listened to them all the time in college. And unfortunately, the lead singer passed away young. So they didn't have as long a career as they should have. But I knew all the songs. I was dancing right along with everybody, and it was a celebration. And I
Yeah.
thought,
So something I just want to bring up, and we're going to circle back to the social media side, but something that I thought was very interesting was you get a sense that somebody else mentioned this to me, that between Daniel and Lindsey, Daniel is somewhat more open to social media and to engaging, I guess, with social media, and you know what I mean. Whereas Lindsay's, it's like a fortress. It's sort of blocked off. It's completely sort of out there, and I don't want to read too much into this, but you sort of wonder in a home setting what you can understand it in the context of this, but one wonders in a home setting what the situation was like with Kiely, like any teenager wanting to kind of engage with it. And I don't think it's overstating it to say it is, I don't want to say dangerous, but a teenager going on social media and going on social media constantly, is that going to be healthy for a teenager? So I don't want to say it's dangerous, but it certainly has a aspect to it that can be unhealthy, addictive, poisonous, and all that kind of thing. And you kind of get the sense that because Lindsay is such an earthy person, she almost saw that as anathema, like be in nature, disconnect, turn it off, you know. And probably Kiely, if you look at the social media that she was into, Danny Duncan, it's like raucous and loud and all those things. But I think, or do you see what I'm getting at? That there was likely a tension there, and I'm not trying to turn this into like, whoa, something's going on. Yeah, I'm simply trying to say, I mean, all of us when we grew up, there was tension with our parents about something. It was either about boys, or it was about, in my case, was watching TV. I was kind of a TV addict. But there's a certain area where they will say, okay, well, this is that's enough now. That's enough of this. And I'm sure it's not unique with Kiely, but I'm just saying I think there definitely was perhaps a stronger limiting of that, than let's say average. They didn't live in a normal suburban fabric. They were quite isolated just in where they lived. And I think part of that psychology of let's go and live in the woods also goes to let's not be connected to all of the capitalist and commercial stuff.
Yeah,
Let's not mainstream social media into our home. Let's create our own home. Don't you get a sense of that?
definitely. And that's one thing that Lindsay had when in her eulogy when she came up to speak is she talked about the isolation and that there's several months of the year that they can't even drive in or out. So she basically said homeschooling was their only choice.
Yeah,
And,
that
and
actually makes sense. That makes sense.
yeah, and I think that it's hard to tell how COVID affects different people, but I would think
Yeah,
in their setting, maybe when things started to open back up is when she's blossoming. I can imagine there were some freedoms there, but she's had a really good head on her shoulders. She's made good decisions. She graduated early, and you're allowed some freedoms then. But they're a extremely tight knit family. Like I just
yeah. But
and
you
I
have to
know.
be, I mean, in a situation like that, you've only got each other. And I think in winter, especially, Rachel
Yes.
asked, was Kylie homeschooled? Yes, she was. I actually put up a image previously where her mother took a photo of the desk where all the homeschooling took place, and you see the books, you see the some of the drawings that were done, but basically the desk where the homeschooling actually took place. That kind of brings it home to you. Anyway, I want to move on from here. I want to move away from the celebration to maps. So one thing that you did that was fantastic, and it broadened my understanding of this whole thing, was you measured the distance from the sanctuary to the location where the vehicle went in, and you know that's just the power of going there and doing it, because you can do it on Google Maps. You can kind of look and you can see, oh, it's about that far. It's totally different when you and I mean, I actually went so far as to try and plot on Google Maps from there to there. It's not the same as when you actually drive it. And it turned out from your measurement that it was almost zero point 0.6 of a mile, right?
Yes.
And when I measured it, I think it came out to a third of a mile or something when I measured it. That's double. Zero point 0.6 of a mile is quite a long time. It's quite a long time to be
Mhm.
driving in the dark. I mean, zero point 0.6 of a mile in the dark, because I think you drive even slower when it's dark, feels like a long time. And so you start getting into, okay, well, I'm driving and here I go. It's not like you've just started driving and you're still alert. You're driving and there you go. I must also say there's something totally different between a dirt road and a tar road, in the sense of I've driven, I don't know what it is in miles, but I've driven, I did one photojournalism sortie through Namibia, which is a desert country to the northwest of South Africa. And so I drove something like 8,000, 60 to 8,000 kilometers over the course of about 2 weeks, and not in a 4x4, in a Chrysler. And what starts happening when you're driving, and I also drove at night and almost crashed into a donkey that was standing in the road, and so on. But what tends to happen at night, especially late at night, is because of the amount that the road bumps, and because you're tired, you in a way tune it out. You Because it's so bumpy, you almost become less. It's almost like white noise. You tune it out, and that almost makes you drive you almost tend to drive more recklessly. If you're on a tar road, any bump, oh, okay, there was a bump. But on a dirt road, the bumps are so sort of regular that you sort of like going like that, you know.
Mhm.
And I want to move on to you. I don't want to sort of. I know this is sort of about me, but something that was quite funny. Something that was quite funny was when we went to Tanzania. We climbed Kilimanjaro and we were now heading somewhere else, a crater. And me and my brother were in the back seat of this Land Rover, and it was going over a really, really rough road. And my father fell asleep. He wasn't driving, he was the passenger. And he fell asleep and he was like going like this, and he fell asleep and he sort of fell onto the driver. And the reason I'm bringing it up is just how dirt roads sometimes have that soothing effect, almost like ASMR. The sound, and I'm not trying to say that she fell asleep. I'm just saying the the stimulation of that, or the excessive bumping. You tend to tune out. You know it's bumpy, so you sort of tune it out, and that in a way makes the drive in a way more dangerous, because you're not as and in a way you've got to tune it out because it's happening. It's par for the course.
Well,
Corrugation's the same thing.
yeah, I mean, and you're only going maybe 5 miles an hour. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's a good
you're
point.
not thinking about being on alert for quick things when, I mean, you're going 5 miles an hour. What could happen?
So, do you want to take us through this map?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Um, that was the Apple map that Nisi was wanting me to do. I'm getting an echo now when you pull that up.
Okay.
I don't know why, but
Shall I mute?
yeah, no, it's still doing. That's okay. I can deal with it. It's not that bad. I'll turn my volume down. That's what I'll do. Um, so Nisi had me, she wanted to see if the Apple Maps would work from the sanctuary, just in case that was a tool that she was using, just, to have up. And so I just put in, town, because she has to go right past town to get home. There's, I mean, really only one logical way from there. So I was standing right in the middle of the sanctuary, and the map does come up, and it's, choose, this is the only recommended route. So when you click on that, it starts at the road, at the main campground road. So it gives you the estimated time and tells you to proceed to the route, like the whole way from the party to the road out. So if she was using that tool, they just don't have those little roads on there. So it showed
So
the stop
Teri,
sign that I needed to get to, but that's as far as that. It just didn't give any more info. You're on your own until you get to the paved road, basically.
so Teri,
So that would have been no help to her.
based on this map, where is the tar road over here?
Is the what road?
Tar. The smooth road. Or is it at the stop sign? Is the tar road?
You need to rotate it 90 degrees. That's why. Why does it look like that? Let me look at it on my phone real quick. Yeah, okay, yeah, just like that. So I was standing right where the blue arrow is. Like,
Okay.
yeah, or the white arrow with the blue circle. So that's the route. The paved road is right where the blue starts.
Oh, okay.
So she's on her own until that blue line starts.
Okay.
Which obviously would not have been helpful to her. All she needed to do was get to the paved road, and then she would have been okay. I mean,
so we're gonna zoom in on that particular aspect, but this is the part I want to highlight, and we're gonna talk now about the road. I think there's some people in chat who are like, please like let's get onto the foul play stuff, and is that person a suspect, and who didn't shed enough tears and whatever. So if you don't accept the foul play thing, then you don't go really down that track, and instead you go down the track of how could an accident have happened. So in other words, if you say, okay, it's foul play, well, who can we accuse, and who didn't cry enough, and who's put up a strange tweet or whatever. But if your direction is towards the accident, then you're looking at what we're looking at here, which is, for example, so what I want to just show here is the blue here is tar road, the main road. That's the point right there. Let me just bring it up like this. This point, this is where the vehicle went in over here. That's where the tar road ends, the smooth road ends. Now all of this is dirt road. Now is this correct when I say this, Teri? The sanctuary is around about here. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So the sanctuary is there. Now, if you look at the two routes, I'm first going to do the route Kiely should have taken. She should have basically gone like this, that way, and then that way. Is that right? Basically, just that way and that way.
Yes.
Right?
That's absolutely.
Yeah. So the route Kiely should have taken was basically that way on dirt road and that way on dirt road, right?
Yes.
And there is a little bit of a turn at the end there. There's a little turn to get on.
It is. It doesn't really look like it, but from the steepness and angle, when you're going from the gravel up to the paved road, it almost is a blind pullout. I mean, I did it twice because you really kind of have to gun it. It's steep, and there's a big pavement lip, like
okay,
5 inches at least.
Okay,
so and you're on a pretty steep incline, so you kind of just hope no cars are coming, actually. But it's not a busy road, especially at that time. But I mean, you know when you're getting off the gravel and onto the pavement for sure. That would be a welcome thing after bumping around on those roads for a while.
Yeah. How long does it take from about here to get you there? What's the time? Is it about 5 minutes?
I would say maybe a little bit longer.
Okay, so while you're looking at that,
I think I clocked that coming out. Let me just look.
Okay, but just give me a second just to make a point here.
Sure.
So the route out from the sanctuary, from where the party was, is from there that way and up, right? And the route that we saying Kiely took is that she went this way and down, basically. There is one additional turn here, right? And this is where the road really smooths out and is very straight and flat. And I want to show you guys that road now. So I want to show you just how straight and flat the road is over here. Look how straight and flat that is.
Yes.
So you took that photo, was it yesterday or today?
That was this morning, right as the smoke was starting to roll in.
Yeah, you took that photo this morning. So when I look at this road, first of all, I would describe it as a road. Would you?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a road.
Would you describe it as a path?
No.
And then there's nothing here that's not smooth. It's smooth, it's flat. And yeah, you can definitely do you agree with this, Teri, that between where you took the photo and where this vehicle is, you could actually pick up some speed?
Absolutely.
There's
not a lot of big bumps in that part right there. I mean, that's immediately what I thought is.
Yeah.
That is where you'd pick up some speed.
So this is the flattest section of the entire route, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So can I ask you, when you're driving the other way, when you're driving the right way to get out. Is this section here also quite flat? The last section.
Once you dip, yeah, there's not a lot of up and down there. It's just quick bumps like this, but I don't think you're really gaining much elevation or losing any. It's relatively flat. It's just really rutted out and bumpy. So you're doing a lot of going back and forth like that.
I know this whole section here is very bumpy and uneven. I'm just asking, is there a section here that's a little bit flat as well?
Yeah, I mean, not as flat as that. That is definitely not as flat as that. It's narrower.
Yeah. So a thought that I had, so there are people who seem to be saying that if Kiely was intoxicated, she would have hit the water and she wouldn't have been able to really do anything. She wouldn't have been able to remove a safety belt. She wouldn't have been able to, let's say, kick the window out. She wouldn't have been able to get from the driver's seat to somewhere else, right? And I think the counter argument to that is, if you can actually drive a vehicle, in other words, if you can open the door, get into a vehicle, and what I'm saying is, you are intoxicated, right? But so in other words, you are compromised, but you are nevertheless able to open your car door, get in the car, turn the car on, and actually get along the route that she did go. Then how on earth, if you could do that, if you could navigate not 100%, maybe 60%, how on earth could you then not navigate inside your vehicle? You know what I mean? It's just faulty reasoning, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So when you went there, tell us a little bit about were you walking here, or had you parked your car somewhere else, or were you driving?
Yeah, I walked in this time because I wanted to walk from the sanctuary down to the shoreline. I just wanted to get the accurate, exactly how far that was, because I think a lot of people, when they say distances, they're talking about as the crow flies. So I mean, I've heard everything from the party was 300 yards to half a mile, and now I see it was 0.58 miles. So I wanted to walk it and just methodically go along that way. Now I was camping last night at the campground, which on this picture, it's on the far left, up on the top of the hill. Yeah, all the way up to the top of the hill over there. So I thought, rather than, I've already driven that before a couple of times, so rather than drive it again, why don't I just walk in, take it slow, get a little bit different perspective. I just came down through the woods. There isn't really a trail there. Just a lot of scrub brush and big pine trees, pine cones. And when I came out, I could see that there was a vehicle, one or two vehicles down there. And I've got my flowers with me. I was going to put on the memorial. So I just took my time, kind of taking the whole scene in. And I mean, I wish I could have the whole world put on these glasses to see what I saw from that perch that I was at, which was pretty high up, and you can see the elevations a lot more, but it's just the distances from where Kiely would have made her first wrong turn would have been a right instead of a left. The distance from there until the next left that she took, almost exact if she had gone the right way and needed to take a left. So, I mean, as I was walking it, going through, I imagined her thinking, I know I need to be taking a left here. Like, I know I need to be taking a left to get out. And I had someone ask me, when you just look on the map like this, the road does continue on past the second left turn that takes her straight to the water. People think, on a map, it looks like that's the main road and that this left is a big turnoff. But when you're standing in it, you're walking in it, it doesn't look like that. The left looks like the main road. It really kind of sweeps to the left. It wants to pull you that way. It didn't even really feel like a turn to me. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay,
That's
there
okay.
we go. Yeah, the reason why there's been such an echo is I thought I was going to play a clip from Lindsey's statement to the media. And so I actually had the share screen on unmute for the first time. And obviously, this is what happens when you do that.
Okay.
Anyway, we learn. So we learn.
Thank you all for bearing with me.
So I want to juxtapose these two maps. This one is the tar road, right?
Yes.
That's the tar road. That point there is where the vehicle went in. That is the point where you go and camp, right?
A little bit to the left, actually, right where you see the inlet come in. Yeah, basically the campground is that whole area where you're at.
Yeah,
It's a big
over there.
oval.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what ended up happening was when you first went there, you thought Kiely had driven into the water somewhere here, right?
Actually, I was thinking around the point where the real boat ramp is, right there.
Yeah.
That's the actual paved boat ramp.
Yeah. And yeah, so basically on this kind of peninsula, you thought that was, in other words, you assumed that the party was somewhere here and that Kiely drove in somewhere here, but more likely there, right?
Yep, exactly.
And I did as well. I just want to bring up another image. Do I have it here?
Yeah, all the media at that time was saying the party was at the Prosser family campground. So I went and got a spot at Prosser family campground thinking the party was right there.
Yeah, so this is this was put up on the Daily Mail the day after Adventures with Purpose found Kiely, and you can see how they got it totally wrong. There they say Prosser family campground. This is where I think they assumed the party was. That's the area searched by the cops. So I think even the cops assumed that it was here, right? You get what I'm saying? Even the police, I think, assumed, well, here's a boat ramp. That's where she went in, right? But that assumption's premised around, well, sorry, my dog just jumped off my lap. That search over here is premised around that the party was at the campground, and it's easy to assume that if you're not a local. And let's face it, the searchers weren't locals. You know, the team in charge of the search. I mean, the authority in charge was Nevada, not Placer, right? So you have the authority in charge aren't locals who are coming there and kind of going, okay, so, and you can imagine someone saying, there's a girl who went missing. She was at the Prosser family campground. Oh, so they must have had the party at the Prosser family campground. So let's look at where a road goes into the water. And so they look over here. And then it turns out, and you and I also figured this out later, like very late. You went there and you still told us the rules that you may not make any noise in this area at between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Is that right? And
Yes.
we still thought maybe they made noise and they were chased away. That's why they left. And then people said, you know what? The party wasn't even there. It was at the sanctuary. And we were like, where's the sanctuary? And the sanctuary is over here.
Yep.
The sanctuary's over here.
That took me to, I talked to the campground host, and he's been there since the beginning of May. And he's done this job a few years now. And I'm like, I'm staying in campsite 6. That's where I heard the party was. He's like, no party here.
Yeah.
Because we have designated spots. You get 1 car per spot. There's no cars parked here. Nobody comes in and out of here unless they've got a camp spot. And I'm like, well, where the heck is the party? Because they're telling me it's, Prosser family campground. And he just points off
Yeah.
in the exact, and I go, how far? He's like, well, I've walked over there a couple times. Like, you can do it in about 20 minutes or whatever. But I'm like, can cars park along the road here? No, it's just enough for 2 cars to get by, and nobody's parking on the road. Nobody's parking in the campground. And he said they almost every weekend, and some have been big enough that they've had DJs, and so you can hear it from the campground. Most of the time, it's not that loud to be bothersome, but they can hear music and people talking and cars revving and things like that. But once he showed me that, I was like, I'm not even close. Like, I need to get over there.
Okay, so Teri, someone said it's Nevada County. They are locals. That's not local. And you might say, yeah, but it's sort of there. But you even from California, you from not that far away. It's really what's the word? It's a little bit of a clumsy argument to say, well, if you from nearby, you're going to know the details of a particular campground, right? You went there and you'd been there before. Am I right? You'd been there before.
Yes.
And because I think you had a fire at your home and so on. But anyway, you'd been there before. And that it turns out that that a lot of people were mistaken. The person who wrote this article was mistaken. You can clearly see that law enforcement were mistaken. Searching there is the wrong place to search, right? It's not even near where the party is. They've even got.
I tried to go down that boat ramp when I stayed there. It was the 12th into the 13th, and it was all roped off with tape, so I didn't even go down that boat ramp. I mean, that was kind of their command station. That's where all the boats were going in and out of there.
So they also have this as the crash site. That's also totally wrong. That's totally wrong. The crash site is over here, right? The crash site is in there. But this is the thing I want to emphasize, Teri. If you look over here, if you blow this map up, the party site was actually here, and the road leading out of the party site goes like that, right?
Yes, it does.
So I'm gonna bring up another one of your maps just to confirm that. So let me just show you. There is the road going out. It sort of makes a slight S, and then it makes a T junction with that road. Let's just bring up one of your maps. Where is it? This one. Unfortunately, you don't see it with this road. But anyway, this road goes out like that, and then it hits. Here's the T junction, right? And then you turned right. This is the route Kiely took, right?
Yes.
But what this doesn't show is there's this same road goes exactly the same way that way.
Yes.
Let's bring that up.
It doesn't show it because that's my run keeper. So it shows that's the exact path.
Yeah. So if you look at this map, you can see quite clearly the road goes like that. And at that point, look at that section of road going that way and that section of road going that way. It's exactly the same. It's going, it's not like the one suddenly turns. In a weird way, that's going that way, just that section there. And
it's basically a straight road. I mean, that's about as straight of a road you're going to get.
I'm just saying the initial thing is a mirror image.
Yes.
And although I really don't think this is rocket science, when you're driving at night, that's not what you see. All you see is that little fringe over there. You can't see the water. You can't see the trees. It's just black. It's not like when you're driving in a city or driving in a suburb where there are street lights and you can kind of see around. At night, all of this is blackness. So if you want to get and I mean, again, there are people who have driven the route, they know this. If you took a black magic mark and you literally went over all of this, all you would see was that little section there. That's what she saw. And so the road going that way and the road going the other way would basically be identical in the beginning, right? I'm not saying this section of road is what it looked like when she turned, just that the road going the one way and the road going the other way where she turned would look and feel identical.
I can attest to that. I drove out both ways, so.
Yeah. So you made a comment that I wanna quote here. You said the first time I heard Doug say that it's not a wrong turn road. Sorry, you said the first time I heard Doug say that it's not a wrong turn road. Since then, he's been repeating it and also describing the sharp left Kiely took onto the path that was so rough the RV almost turned over. Now, a lot of people have been criticizing me that you only quoted that part, where he said, what did he say? The wrong turn.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is I actually want to do a really long thing dealing with one thing that AWP said and another thing. This was really just an introduction to that because I thought the way that I wanted to do it was I wanted to deal with my analysis in one go, but I thought people are gonna push back, and so let's do a shorter version of that, which I've done. And so obviously people now say, oh, you're only quoting that little piece of what he said. Obviously, I know what he said. I know that he said the path. I know that he said the road's rough. You were there. But I do wonder whether it's a case that, there's a saying you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You kind of wonder, is this a case where you can make your case 99%, but someone will also say, oh, that 1%, you haven't convinced me. And because I don't want to be convinced. It's got nothing to do with logic. It's got nothing to do with science. It's got nothing to do with facts. It's got to do with I'm part of a channel with 2 million viewers and I'm going to back them up no matter what. And I'm not challenging what they're saying because I'm trying to be popular. If anything, it makes me unpopular. I'm challenging what they're saying because it doesn't make sense. You were there and you say it doesn't make sense. That's why we're challenging it. So that's the one aspect that we want to challenge is this idea that it's impossible that Kiely took a wrong turn. No, it's not impossible. It's very, very likely, right? It's not like 50-50 likely. It's very, very likely. It was dark. There are no road signs. It's not like there was a sign saying Truckee that way and she didn't see the sign. It was dark, and we've had people going there at night, almost getting into trouble that are sober. The checker TV guy almost got his vehicle into the water when he was just kind of messing around there. That's how easy it can happen. Why? Because these are normal roads. These are slanted roads. It's at night. It's disorientating. You can't quite see where you're going. So this whole idea that it's impossible, it definitely isn't an accident. You sort of wonder, is it so hard to think about that? Like, is it so hard to kind of just go, let's think about that? And I'll tell you
Yeah, well,
why.
I
Yeah.
felt like, oh, sorry.
Well, I think there is a reason why it is impossible to think about it because you can't make any money. You can't get a lot of viewers on the it's nobody's fault thing. I mean, who do you blame? Where does the narrative go, right? In other words, you can't kind of milk the story if you sort of say, well, it's an accident, because it's basically you talk about the map and then that's really it. The alternative is you can say, could it be this teenager who murdered Kiely? Could it be this girl who was jealous of her and they got together and they murdered her and they pushed her vehicle in? And then you have all of that and you can speculate till kingdom come, right? You've got to really wonder, those people speculating, if they went to the celebration and spoke to the teenagers in person, what they would do. I would really hate to see something like that because you could really imagine this craziness kind of taking place. But of course, the craziness takes place online on social media. When you go to those, when you see those people in person, it's like I want to see the funeral pictures because I want to see who wasn't crying because I think that's suspicious. It's so heartless and so callous, but that's where social media is right now. It is a monster. It is a monster.
I know that, and I know I put myself out there just doing any of this, but being so close to it, I felt called to it. And I do think being there gives you a much different perspective than I've followed other cases. Obviously, I'm closest to this one, but it's seeing things and being there. And I think what first caught me about Doug's statement was I first just didn't understand it because I've watched. I don't think I've maybe seen every interview he's done, but I've seen a lot. And with him first just saying that that's not a wrong turn road. So that didn't really make sense to me. Just any road can be a wrong turn road if you turn the wrong way. So I didn't know what he meant by that. And then a couple of days later,
Teri, what stuck out to me was that would make sense if he was thinking about the Prosser family campground. It doesn't make sense if it's from the sanctuary. And I kind of got the sense, my feeling was that when Doug was actually on scene, right? So when Doug was there, he was alerted by the another diver. Did he not go by boat from where he was to Nick, right? And somewhere along the line, he says he drove the RV, but to me, it doesn't make sense if you are scanning. Why on earth, just like hear me out when I say this. If there's one boat scanning the reservoir, and there's another boat scanning the reservoir, and they're really not that far apart. And then the one guy says, hey, I think I found something. Why wouldn't you just go with your boat, which has also got scanning, and then you go to that point in the boat, and then you do your whatever? Are you really going to sort of go, okay, I'm going to come to land, load the boat up in the RV, come all the way around, and then let the boat in and then check that way? Because we do know that both boats were right there where Nick was. I'm just asking a question. I could be wrong. Maybe Doug was like on the other side and he said, are you sure? Are you sure? And then maybe he sent a photo on his phone and then he was like, wow, we've got to get the whole operation there. So I don't know. But I would assume, just logically, that if you're in a boat and someone else is on a boat and someone says, I think I found something, wouldn't you go by boat to where, right? So what I'm trying to say is, does it in your mind make you think, okay, so the party isn't at Prosser, it's somewhere else? That's what I'm trying to say. Or what I'm also taking a bit further is, if he did go by RV, if he did go in the vehicle, you could imagine him either thinking, so this is the route that was driven. Do you know what I'm saying? This is the route that was driven because I'm driving it now. This is the route that the car had to go to get to where it is now. But if you're going by boat, you're not going to be thinking that way. You're going to be thinking, is the car in there? Is the car in there? So I don't know. This is the basic point I'm trying to make is, we made the mistake, you and I think a lot of people, and the person who wrote this article, and law enforcement, thinking that the party was at the Prosser campground, right? All of us made that mistake. So I'm simply asking, sorry to say it, I know it's this, it's like what you are doing, you are violating the laws of the universe, but could AWP have also made that assumption, right? And it would make sense, as I say, if you at the Prosser campground, to say there's no way you could have driven that way because there's a path, and isn't there a deep-rutted path at the Prosser campground going down to the water? A path.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So isn't that what he was talking about? Because why on earth would you describe a road as a path? And then, so all I'm trying to say is, it to me sounds like that he got a little confused about where it was. And it's not to say you are not professional, or you made a mistake, AWP, it's terrible. I made a mistake, you made a mistake, law enforcement made a mistake, that's why they couldn't find her. So it's okay to say you made a mistake. I'm simply saying where all of that brings you to at the end of the day is, could she have taken a wrong turn? Yes. Why is that such an impossible statement to make? How dare you say that this could be an accident? It's like,
yeah, and saying this it's not to diminish what they did. I mean, we all know law enforcement did not find her. They swooped in, and it doesn't diminish from that. If you think about it, we had already been on the case and studying that area. I had already been out there myself, and we still had it wrong. So they were coming from Wisconsin. They've got there in 2 days. Like, they've probably never searched water in that area before. I mean, they're getting oriented themselves. It's even more likely that they would make the mistake than us. So I think it's
Yeah.
giving them a lot of leeway. It's just hard. It's hard to explain. I thought she went into the paved boat ramp. It makes sense. That is not a wrong turn road. He's right. I mean, it's a U and you leave. I mean, you can't. It's
Yeah.
a circle.
Yeah.
So that's what cued me when I really started thinking about the wrong turn road thing. And then it was a couple days until he inserted the narrative of, well, you have to take a sharp left turn to get there. It doesn't make sense why she would do that.
Mm.
I'm like, it actually does make complete sense if you know that that's the way to get to the party. I mean, you have to be on those bumpy roads to get to the party. So,
So, Teri, this is your photo, which I've actually used as my background. I want to talk a little bit more about what you saw this morning in a moment. But you know what I find really incredible about this photo? You know, there's that saying, you can't see the woods for the trees. This image really sort of brings that here. You know, the smokiness has made these trees hard to see. And you know, I just love this photo because it's of the symmetry of it. You know, it's like a mirror image in a way. And through that that opening, you see the trees, you know, through that, but it's sort of vague. You can barely make it out. I don't know. To me, this image is so emblematic of this case. It's like, you literally can't see the woods for the trees. You know.
Yep.
But
I don't know,
what I find, and I get that certain creators, you know, you can sometimes understand something like I was led to believe that Michigan party footage was the Prosser party. And then I put it up and then I was informed that it wasn't. So sometimes you make an innocent mistake, but I think what's happening quite a lot in this case is that people are not creators, influencers. It's not innocent. They know what is going to get traction, right? They know what is clickbait basically, and they know what's not clickbait, and so they sort of dragging their viewers into that whole thing. And so it's not a case of I can't see the woods for the trees. It's let's blow smoke into this whole thing and make it very whoo. Let's turn this into a bonanza, right? And the reality is you can see those trees even with the smoke. You can see it quite clearly. I don't know if my if you guys in chat are getting what I'm talking about.
I can't see the chat, so I don't know. I'm looking at my notes. I hope everybody's being kind. I mean, it's we're not discounting anything anybody did. I mean, but there is something. Owning up to mistakes doesn't diminish your accomplishments ever. So it's just to keep, doubling down on something that's, you know, it comes from a source that is so trusted with a huge fan base that, I mean, they'll believe anything. And it's, I'm glad that we're going through this, and I'm glad that I was able to. I would just wish I could have the whole world put on glasses and see what I could see walking around there. It's, yeah.
I do think there's a lot of social media wagging its own tail, and you know, like the whole thing of, I'm not going to say his name, but you know, Kiely never existed. That whole thing is playing with the true crime community, playing little games, and it's all entertainment, it's all a joke, and it's all, you know what I mean. I want to say, Teri, that it feels like social media is getting bigger every year, right? If you think about the Chris Watts case, that was like big at the time. It was like, wow, this is the biggest case ever. Then it was Gabby Petito that made the Chris Watts case feel like a mouse. It was like an elephant versus a mouse.
Yeah.
Then, if you think about it, Depp versus Heard with 20 billion views on a particular hashtag, which is like, 2 or 3 times the population of this planet. And then I'm not saying Kiely Rodney is like bigger than Depp versus Heard, but here you've got channels with 3 million subs, multiple channels with almost 3 million subs. And that alone creates this enormous traction, And I just find it interesting how the true crime community, what I've seen, seems to kind of go belly up and like are you a big channel? Okay, how can I sort of tickle your belly? How can I pet you? How can I give you the floor and I will, just lose the ability to think, kind of thing? We did a little census and we found, this is on True Crime Rocket Science on Patreon. I think we found, we counted them, and this is fairly big channels. We found 16 or 17 pro foul play channels that are up till the celebration, up till about the 10th of September, which is late. It's a month into the story, where there's a lot of information out now about 17 pro foul play channels. Guess how many channels are accident theory? Basically 2. And the other one basically doesn't even cover this case because it's like, well, this isn't true crime. This is, this is not, like this is below my pay grade kind of thing. There's another channel. I don't really I'm going to get some flack for saying this, but I don't really think of Check It TV as a true crime channel because they've just started. You know what I mean? It's just come out there, and a guy who dives something out. Great work, for doing that, but I don't see it as a channel that's been around. But I mean, he nevertheless does say he also thinks it's an accident. So, but the point is that there are like 17, 18 channels that are all saying the same thing. Why is that? Why are 18 channels, 17, 18 saying something and 2 channels saying something else? Because that's where the money is. But is that truth? Is that factual? Is that logical? Is that sensible? Is that the science? And I know it's going to happen, Teri. Well, let me say, I predict what's going to happen is, let's say, according to this scenario, if it comes out that the autopsy shows something or other, and it may not, if it comes out that the toxicology shows something, and it may not, if law enforcement makes a statement and they say, we believe this was an accident, everyone will go on to the next case. There'll be no accountability, whatever. It'll just be, thanks, we cashed in our chips, now let's go on to the next case and do the same thing again. What I find something that irks me is I've seen Adventures with Purpose saying somewhere on a particular channel said something like, if law enforcement says this is an accident, no one's going to believe them. At this point, saying that, it's I don't know. Do you know where that was said? Like, do you know that
Yes,
that was? Yeah.
Yes, I heard that said, and
yeah.
I mean, that brings up, the law enforcement, inept law enforcement argument right there. I mean, so just because they didn't find her, and mistakes that were made or things that were overlooked, so that's the out then is. If they say accident, well, we don't believe them anyway. Like now it's a big cover up. And I know it feels to me like there's just a general shift overall. I mean, true crime is becoming more popular, but you're getting different audience, different genre. Maybe there's not enough going on in like Hollywood drama right now, but I feel like it's being treated as entertainment. Yeah. And that somehow we can change the outcome. Like if voice enough, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
a
so
weird camaraderie, but I just see a lot, just the entertainment part of it. I mean, all these comments going through my head while I'm meeting her family, and I just think none of you would say any of that right now. If you were here in front of these people and you were here, like, do you really believe it yourself, or are you just to be afraid to be the lone person in the comments that gets eaten up?
well, I think that's a great point, and I want to address it with Nick Rinn. I'm not going to really address it here, but it's this idea of Nick Rinn right in the beginning said this is suspicious, and I think if you had to ask him right now, Nick Rinn, do you still think it was suspicious? And he might say yes, but I think if you had to say, okay, but you think it's as clearly suspicious as you did the moment you came up out the water, I would be interested to hear what he says. If he still says, yes, no, it's absolutely suspicious, then I would say, well, I'm going to get to that. I'll deal with that analysis separately. But um, there's a comment by Roseanne who says, if you think it was an accident, how does the tow guy explain? Now, I've seen a lot of people argue the same way with the wrong turn. You say, could it have been a wrong turn? Then people say, but she was in the rear under the belt. In other words, no, I'm not. I don't want to think about it being a wrong turn because of the end. In other words, the one assumption trumps the other assumption, right? So part of being an intelligent person is just holding a thought. It doesn't mean you've got to kind of what's the word? You don't have to change your mind or go over to the other side. But part of intelligence is simply holding a thought and considering it. And a big problem with this case was people made assumptions. One of the first assumptions was that if you can't see the vehicle in the lake, then it's not in the lake. And that's an assumption I made as well. I thought the vehicle wouldn't have gone very far in, right? And if they haven't found it after 10 days, the same thing. But at that point, I didn't know until you went there just how steep that, because it's a reservoir, it's not a dam, it's not a typical lake thing. It's got very steep embankments that are man made. Now, in a dam situation or a lake, you would have rocks, you would have uneven terrain and gradual terrain that would prevent a vehicle from just sort of like running endlessly into water and then keep going. I mean, you very seldom find in lake situations roads that go straight to the water's edge. You don't find it. With a reservoir, the reason why people are able to do that with this reservoir, it's because the edges are kind of compacted. The edges are a specific kind of material that's almost like cement, right? That's why you're able to do that. But in a normal situation, you couldn't. There would be mud, there would be rocks, there would be all of that kind of thing, terrain situations like that, and yeah. So anyway, the thought experiment, because that's what it is, where you say we don't know the outcome of this case, so let's consider, could it have been an accident? No, I don't want to think about that because we know the end result is that, so I'm going to hold on to that, you know. So the same thing applies with, how could it be an accident if what tow truck guy said? Now, it's quite simple. If you take what tow truck guy said and you say, logically, where does that take you? So in other words, you say, he saw something suspicious. It was Kiely's vehicle. And I think that's the bottom line. If you say Kiely's vehicle was near Bocker Lake at 11 a.m. on Saturday, you simply say that, just that on its own. You don't need to know anything else. You don't need to say the suspect's this person, the suspect's that person. You just say, okay, so Kiely's vehicle's not in the reservoir. It's actually after the party. It's actually, I think, about half a mile away at Bocker Lake. So then you've got to say, so how does it come all the way back to the campground and go into the reservoir right by the party, right? Let me just say that again. If you assume that that sighting of the vehicle is true, then it means the vehicle comes all the way back to where it was right? You need to really see this on a map, but it comes all the way back from Boca back to Prosser, goes back into the water there, right? And you've got to ask, okay, so did somebody drive that vehicle after 11 a.m. and nobody saw it in the day, driving all the way back? Plus, once the vehicle goes into because this is someone pushed the vehicle in. So someone who drove the vehicle pushed the vehicle in. So how did they then get away from there? Did they walk? Did they walk home? So if somebody else assisted them, then there had to be another vehicle there. Meanwhile, at 11 a.m. on Saturday, there was already a search going on for Kiely. So in the middle of a search, someone is actually going to be putting a vehicle in there, really.
And that's right where they were searching. I mean, that's where the search was centralized, right there.
That's right where they're searching. Like Kiely didn't go home, let's go and find her. Oh, it's 11 a.m., let's put your vehicle in here. Why would you do that? Why would you go back to, let's call it the crime scene? Why would you go back there? And then, and also it's a public place, the campus all around there, and you're going to do that in an exposed area. I mean, this is the craziest part of all. Let me just bring up some of your photos here.
Yeah, the one toward the beginning from up above.
Yeah. That's a really good example. Are you really going to go to this point here, which is one of the most exposed areas? You can see it for miles around, and you're going to do something in full view of everybody. Why not just push it into the lake somewhere else where you can't be seen? Why would you go onto, because you're going onto this upraised platform? This is completely bare. There's nothing to hide you away from anything. Oh, no, I'm sure that's what happened. Then you might say, oh, it didn't happen in daylight. It happened on Saturday night, really, with the search going on. No, I don't know.
For me, I mean, as soon as I've had people ask me about that too in the comments, and I kind of just stop reading, and I know that's not good because I do need to be exploring everything, but I always consider the source, and the no wrong turn and the tow truck guy came from the same source. So I don't know. I'm just, it feels like misinformation to me that's just readily being believed. I've not seen any proof of it. There's been no dash. Nothing's been confirmed by anybody, but it's just a truth. That's absolutely what happened.
Teri, my initial response, without really even thinking about it, was, so this is the last footage of Kiely / this is the last footage of a vehicle, right? In other words, there is more footage. So the law enforcement have been saying all along, please give us footage, right? And according to what this guy said, now the timeline is sort of shifting because this is said in the future of the case, but dealing with a week prior. So it's kind of shifting the timeline. You've kind of got to remember that. You've got to remember that law enforcement are giving press conferences every day, showing photos every day, like this is the last photo of Kiely. So if a guy came forward a week into the whole thing, which is already sus in my opinion, like, wow, you didn't see anything. But anyway, if he did come forward a week after, then surely his footage trumps everything else, where you say, this is the last footage we've got of the vehicle, and these are, I don't know, suspects, or these are, can you recognize this person, or if that was Kiely, this was Kiely. In other words, it goes from 6 p.m. in Truckee to 11 a.m. at Boca, and that never happened. And then you say, oh, no, law enforcement aren't going to release that because, I don't know, it's an ongoing investigation. That's crap. The whole ongoing investigation, you know what that applies to? When there's a court case, they talk about an ongoing investigation. The prosecution keeps that information close to their chest. The defense don't. The defense tend to say, that's not true, and that's not true, and that's not true. But when you're prosecuting a case that's going to court, and law enforcement are part of that prosecution, it's part of an ongoing investigation, and then they maybe release an affidavit. But this whole thing that there is going to be no court case for this case. There's no court case. It's not part of some ongoing investigation that you've got to keep quiet about it. I don't know. So what I find also quite interesting with AWPs, they'll give information like this, that, and the next thing. And then when it's something else that's either yes or no, like, was Kiely wearing this, yes or no? Oh, it's part of an ongoing investigation. I can't answer the question. Okay, well, but speculate away. Did she take a wrong turn? Absolutely not. But, I thought it's part of an ongoing investigation. So the things you don't want to answer are part of an ongoing investigation. The things that you do want to answer, do you see what I'm saying? It's just the whole ongoing investigation. There's not a court case that's going on here. And law enforcement would have updated. It happens all the time with Vicky White and Casey White. The CCTV they kept updating it, saying, we've now got a CCTV of them at a hotel. We've now got CCTV at a car wash. In other words, you update. They did the same thing with Caitlin Armstrong. So why wouldn't you provide updated CCTV of Kiely? So if there's supposedly a fugitive on the loose, because that's what they're trying to say here. The foul play people are saying somebody murdered Kiely and there's a fugitive on the loose. Well, the media aren't interested in a fugitive. Law enforcement aren't interested. The family aren't interested. Nobody's interested except social media. Why is that? It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I'll say, just to tag on to that nobody at the celebration was thinking anything like that either. So it's just, I don't get it. I just, that the two biggest stirrups right now are just the wrong turn and the tow truck guy. And I mean, they came from the same source that is a beloved source, and I get it. It's also someone who doesn't do active investigations and can be really emotionally involved in things. And the emotions just think of the emotions. I mean, they know they've been through that a lot. This is their 24th person that they found. I mean, that's can't really get easier.
So, Teri, do you want to talk about when you went to the reservoir? You don't have to mention names if you don't want to. If you feel like you can, you can. But you went to the reservoir this morning and you saw something you didn't expect.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to write a script for this because I was on my way back today, but so I'll try to wing it here. Yeah, I knew I wanted to take, you can see the picture right there, the flowers and the cross. Every time I looked at the memorial pictures, it just seemed like there wasn't very much out there. So I wanted to take a really big bouquet out there. And then her mom said some really nice words at the celebration that I had recorded. So I just wanted to play the recording out over the water for her. And so that was my plan. And there's really hasn't been any activity out there. I wasn't really expecting anybody out there 9:30 in the morning. But I put the flowers in my backpack and just kind of cut through the woods and came out about where Adventures with Purpose would have been standing during the vehicle extraction. Yeah, right. That one up on the top. I started out from there, and it's pretty steep. Yeah, I kind of just went straight down the hill from there. But when I came through the woods, I saw that there were two trucks up on the very top there. So I thought, okay, someone's there. You know, I just kind of wanted that time alone. But then as I got closer, I went down and got closer and around, and I just realized it was Kiely's dad with a diver that he had there with him, and it's really, really careful in approaching him, but just had a really raw, genuine interaction with him. I was very, very impressed the way he composed himself and that he was just accepting and opening to me. He shared, you know, a bit of information with me, and I could tell he just, while he's listening to the social media stuff, I mean, I can see that, you know, he mentioned reading some things and it's just so crazy. And he's like, why? Just, I'm here to pick up the pieces. And, you know, we ruminated about that, and just that there aren't going to be any more pieces. And I was able to tell him I'm really sorry that he's having to be out there doing that. And he said there's nowhere else I'd rather be. You know, I missed most of the memorial yesterday because I was here, but I can't bear the thought of scavengers or other people coming in and getting pieces of her, selling them online, or I don't even know. But this belongs to us, and I want to make sure that there's nothing else down there. And that's why he missed the memorial yesterday, because that's what they were out there doing. And
so that's Daniel, and that is
yeah,
a diver that is hired.
volunteering their time for the
Okay.
family, ex-military.
I must say, there's something so sad and somber and tragic about this. Is like, this is the day after the funeral, and this is what he's doing with his time. Instead of mourning, he's at the site where something's happened, trying to find things that searchers clumsily, you know, because they've already clumsily left it behind, and he's got to do it himself. And you know, it's
Yeah,
definitely
he didn't want to have that conversation. I mean, he avoided pointing fingers, fault, anything. This is where we're at. You know, that this is what I'm not, why doesn't matter. You know, my baby girl is gone, and this is what I'm doing. He said, what I'm worried about is, what am I going to do next? Because he hasn't been, you know, living his daily life at all since she went missing. And I encountered him again on the way out after I came back hiking down. He was actually driving out, and because as the diver came up, I walked away respectfully, just in case there was anything personal. I don't, you know, he probably doesn't feel there's a person in the world that he can trust. And here, you know, here I am, just, I had no intentions of seeing him. This wasn't planned, but how does he know? I could have been, it probably looked like I was waiting for him to show up. And then, because it was just us, there was nobody else out there. And so I walked away respectfully when the diver came back up. And on the way out, he thanked me again for searching, and said, I'll just tell you, we didn't find anything else. It's clear. And just the look on his face was so, he can close the book on that chapter. And I felt happy for him, because
Do you know whether her phone
what
has
he's been
been
doing.
found?
What's that?
Do you know whether her phone has been found?
I did ask him that. I didn't want to, because I felt like, I don't know. I just wasn't trying to ask questions about specific things. But, you know, just in passing, I said, well, you know, it'd be great if he could find the phone, or, you know, has the phone been found already? He said, I don't know. I don't know,
He doesn't know.
because we got a really powerful magnet. So if anything's down there, we'll get it.
So to me, that's definitely a frustrating aspect with law enforcement. Is if he said no, they haven't found the phone. So in other words, if he asked law enforcement have they found the phone, or law enforcement said we haven't found the phone, but him saying he doesn't know, I would actually assume that means that they have found the phone. Otherwise, they would say we're still looking, and you would see law enforcement looking for it, because the phone, besides Kiely, besides the Honda, the phone is the third most important thing to find here, right? Do you agree? And I think if they didn't have the phone, you would actually see police divers looking for it, I believe, right?
Yeah, well,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, with him saying, you know, we didn't find anything today, it's clear. This, like,
Well,
if he would have found it, or they'd be coming back tomorrow. Like he was extremely confident it was
Actually, I assume
there.
that they're diving looking for the phone because they haven't found the phone. But if he'd said, if you'd asked, have they found the phone, and he said no, then I would have said, okay. But him saying I don't know, I think it's possible and even likely that law enforcement do have it. That's an aspect I definitely find frustrating with law enforcement. Um, you know, someone was saying it's not law enforcement's job to respond to every conspiracy on social media. Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you can. How much effort does it take to put out a tweet? You know what I mean? There's certain things that you can clarify, and it's not going to like jeopardize an investigation. The other side to that argument, I think, is who's in charge of this case? I think in a way, Placer are interested in the case and they're involved, but they're not in charge of it. Nevada are in charge, but you could argue that they are not that interested because it's not really their area. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In a weird way, it's a little bit like Sammy and Kiely. Everyone thinks it's Sammy's responsibility to take care of Kiely. Sammy wasn't really her best friend. They knew one another, and they let's say they were friendly with one another. But it's not like Sammy's best pal is Kiely. That's not what's going on. Somebody did say during the celebration, it sounded like Sammy knew Kiely quite well. So maybe there is that aspect. But the point is, what I'm trying to say is who was more responsible in the hierarchy for Kiely? Well, Kiely was responsible for Kiely. Kylie's ex-boyfriend or boyfriend, you could say, had some responsibility. Kylie's best friend would have some responsibility, and her mother would have some responsibility. Someone who kind of knew her falls out of that whole peripheral thing. And I'm not saying Sammy had no responsibility in that situation, but by the same token, all the seniors there had some responsibility. You can say at any party, seeing someone drunk who wants to drive, you should go up to them and say, no, you shouldn't drive, right? But at the same time, what about the person who elects to drive? Don't they have any responsibility, So that's the one argument. Do you get what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And I think it's almost a similar argument that putting it all onto Sammy, well, because of this little broken hierarchy of authority, Placer is right there, but they're not in charge. So Placer, for example, probably would have had a good idea of what the campground looked like, but because they're not in charge, someone else is coming in there going, we're going to search the boat ramp, we're going to search there. But it's not really the best place to search, right? If you know the area. And so that, I think, added a layer of complexity to all of this.
I totally agree. One thing I was thinking I forgot to add too is, I was there on the 12th and 13th of August, the 18th and 19th, and then again yesterday. The amount the water has gone down, it's perfect that you're showing that picture right there, because when I was there just a couple weeks ago, the 18th, 19th, that little ribbon of water coming in front there was all the way to the far right where the hill kind of changes color and goes up. I would be curious to know if her vehicle hadn't been found by now. I would think the tires would be showing. I mean, it's gone down that much. I mean, I would say 12 feet. That's a lot.
Yeah, it depends from when to when you measure, but it does seem like when Checkett went in, it had gone down as much as 10 feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
The irony is that if they'd never found Kiely, if they basically just like searched and never found her, well, the reservoir would have revealed her ultimately. That's the other part that's ridiculous is, oh, so you're a local, you're a local at this party. You're gonna now hide Kiely away in a reservoir that's gonna empty every year. You know what I mean? It's just so in your foul play scenario, it's like, oh, I'm gonna hide this vehicle in the water, but anyway, because no, the locals know that this happens every year. The reservoirs go down every year. There's an area where I walk my dog, where every winter it is almost completely, the water is almost completely gone every year. I must say, this year was exceptional, where it was actually very full due to unusual rain. But like, if somebody said, would that be a good place to dump someone, right? If someone wanted to involve me in a, say, criminal conspiracy, I would say no. First of all, don't commit the crime. But secondly, no, that place is completely. You can see the bottom of that dam in the middle of winter because it's completely dry. Locals know that.
I agree that locals definitely know that. I mean, some of the locals are just either summer or winter people if they're into skiing, so it'd be frozen over then. But I would say a good portion of the locals that live there year round would absolutely know that.
But even if you're not a local, I mean, you live in California. Isn't it true all over California that
Yes.
that all of these reservoirs kind of,
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone that I've been to in this whole area. So yeah.
Thanks for that, Sam. Thanks very much. Okay, so I think we've really covered everything we want to cover. We basically just spoke about you meeting Lindsey, having a unexpectedly meaningful encounter with her, actually giving her a, what did you call it? A shawl.
A shawl.
A
Goes
shawl.
like over your shoulders.
Yeah, and a very I thought it was like, I thought you totally, it's something that I can see her using or wearing or having, right? You met her biological father. That scene was pretty heartbreaking in itself. The celebration itself was just a sense of getting a sense of that community in a way that we haven't really, we've sort of had an idea of this hippie vibe, but now we've got a real sense of it. We've looked at maps. We've looked at how at that point where she could have taken a wrong turn, the roads are identical. Just at that point, at the point where you should have turned left, but you turn right, it's like a T where both those little sections going off are exactly the same. And then the thing that surprised me, I think, the most was the distance from the sanctuary, from the party site, is a lot further than I actually understood. I thought it was a third of a mile, but it's actually about double that. It's about 0.6 of a mile. And I think that's long enough to, how can I put it? It's long enough to get disorientated in the dark, but also to start picking up speed when you're disorientated.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say it said that walk took me 11 minutes, but you can see one of the pinpoints on there is when I stopped on the road and talked to Daniel. So it stretches out the time. I'd say it's about a 10-minute walk, which would be a 5-minute drive. Oh, thank you, Zircon. That's nice. Oh, I put that flower out there too. Just floated it out there. I didn't know what to expect. Putting myself in that place and immersing in this, and especially going there yesterday, I don't know what I expected, but I wanted to just absorb and be a part of it. And I've just felt so, I know what chatter has been going on, and I just wanted to embrace these people and just, I don't want to subscribe to any of this other chatter going on there. It doesn't feel good. Being there and seeing those people in person. I just try to think about every comment and think the family could be watching. And I'm just kind of bored about the behavior all around. And I felt like I needed to give them gifts. I felt like they needed to know that the world is still okay. I mean, I kind of felt the weight of the true crime world on my shoulders. And
Well,
I
I
didn't.
must say, I didn't ask you to go there. You felt, I mean, it was actually the second time that you'd gone out there. I didn't ask you to go there. You felt moved to do that. Even making the shawl, that was something that came out of your heart. And I would say you're a wonderful ambassador for this channel. Not that you necessarily represent this channel, but you are part of this channel. And the fact that you went there, and I felt you were positive. You were a positive person there. You know, you gave Lindsey a hug, you gave Daniel a hug, and not just that, you were touched. I think they were touched by you, and you were touched by them. And you are part of the human story here. You're not part of some sort of bonanza, you know. And you know what I really appreciate from you is you've brought light to the hazy smokiness. You brought clarity, even to me. You know, you've showed. I mean, what we learned, you and I learned together, was just that simple thing of, oh, the party wasn't here; it was over there. That was already a major, like. Okay,
I remember
wow.
having to say that to you. Once I realized, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to tell
Yeah,
Nick I'm in the wrong spot. But I
yeah,
owned up to it. I mean, I can't hide
yeah.
behind this now and like, oh, we're just going to pretend it's at this spot. I
Yeah,
owned
and
up to it.
so you know, you can't overestimate the importance of being there. And the weird thing is, someone else who's there will say it's suspicious and all this different kind of stuff, and you'll say, yeah, but they were there, you weren't there. Except you were there, you were there, and you've done a reconnaissance of the land, the topography, the campsite, that I don't know if Adventures with Purpose did as much. They were in the water, they know the water part really, really well. Um, and that's, I think, a valid point as well.
Absolutely. I just felt like I had the weight of strangers on my on my shoulders there, getting to. I just felt like I was representing a greater community, and just I think I was able to reach out to both parents in a way to just everything will be okay if we can just be there for each other in the hard moments. And I don't
Yeah,
know.
Masha, I want social media to be not just one, like a one-track record, like
Yeah.
witch hunt, red flags, everyone's a target, everyone's a suspect. This sort of negative, toxic, poisonous monster. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
Well,
would like,
there's a time
I
for
would like,
that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would like social media also to bring light and to bring, um, to edify and to be sensitive and to be caring. To me, a question that we ask is on in true crime, but I especially ask it when I'm writing a book. I've written like dozens and dozens of books. The question that you ask of law enforcement, of prosecutors, of lawyers, of witnesses, of, you know, and often there are witnesses that don't want to come forward, and it's so frustrating. But the question you ask in every true crime case is, it starts off with, do you care? And the answer is, yeah, I care. How much do you care? Because if you care a lot, you care about the truth, you care about facts, you care about authenticity. If you care a little bit, then facts don't really matter. It's what I believe and what team I'm on, and all that kind of thing. When you care a lot, you also care about it being true. And I thought that was quite a poignant point where Lindsey said on camera to the news crew, where she said the word true.
Mm-hmm. Is it
Because
kind?
it's,
Is it true? Is it helpful?
yeah. And if you take that measure, is it kind? It doesn't feel like it's been very kind at all. It seems like it's been very cruel. Is it true? It doesn't seem like it's true or logical or sensible in many areas. When you take the whole tow truck guy thing and you say, yes, but tow truck guy, that changes everything. But when you think it through, it doesn't make any sense. So
Mm-hmm.
is it true? No, I don't think it's true. If you take the what's the last one?
Was helpful.
Is it helpful? It seems like it's the opposite of helpful. It seems like it's smoke, blowing smoke all over the place, muddying and murking, and of course, as I said, social media wagging its own tail. You know how much when I'm researching what statements are made, you know how much you've got to trawl through where social media is blowing smoke up the other person. It's like you must subscribe to this person's channel and you must do this and whatever. When are we going to talk about the information? When are you going to challenge the person? I'm sure social media being helpful to social media, but let's try and be helpful to the facts of this case. Oh no, no, I don't want to. It's an ongoing investigation, and we can't talk about it. Oh, but what about that? Oh, it's suspicious and it's foul play, and blah blah blah. Oh, okay, we'll talk about that. Okay. No,
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know. I find it's a double standard. It's a total double standard, and I do think my channel is definitely maybe the least popular covering this case, right? I know, like, if you want to win the popularity contest, which way to go and what to do. I know about that formula, but that's why I'm trying to be an authentic channel. That's what being authentic means, is you're not trying to be popular, you're not trying to tell people what they want to hear, you're not trying to get clicks, and you're not trying to get traction. You're trying to find out what happened. Isn't that what true crime is supposed to be? Isn't true crime supposed to be about being true, truthful, truth tellers, truth seekers, not speculation, not I believe, not here's a witness that I'm not even going to think about what they're saying. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It needs to be a real investigation, not a social media investigation, because that's totally different. I just want to thank Yvonne. You have such great hearts, guys. Thanks for tonight.
Mhm.
Thanks, Yvonne. Roses are red. Thank you as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I was able to look deeply into both of those parents' eyes, and I know there's not a lot of people that would be able to do the same. Felt good about
Yeah.
what I was doing, and to me, that was the most important thing, to be
Yeah, I
able to
wonder if
show
if
some
you could
love.
if you could, there are, as I say, 17 other channels that are pushing foul play, and I think that person's a suspect. Maybe that one is, and if you could take that person and beam them up like Star Trek into that situation. I'm just asking a question. I wonder whether they would
Mhm.
feel ashamed and uncomfortable, or whether they would feel confident and validated, and do you know what I'm saying? I just wonder. Just wonder.
Yeah, I almost feel like they have an aura around them that just would block that out anyway. Yeah, it's, one of the things that Daniel said to me was, I just don't know why everyone's doing this, causing all this. And I said, I want to believe that everyone truly cares about Kiely. I think everyone does truly care. It's just there's this need for a villain, I guess.
But you know what it is, Terry? It starts off. That's how it starts off. Is we care, but then it becomes there's a big audience that's paying attention. In other words, caring, which is a good thing, becomes there's a big audience that's paying attention, and then someone else comes along and how can I use that? That's how the caring. That's how I'm going to
Mhm.
take care of the situation. I must say, this is such a great photo that you took. Closed due to smoke. Sorry, it feels a little
To the
like
frown.
this. It feels a lot like the I don't know even use the word narrative. The um, this whole thing that is come out of the search for Kylie Rodney. It feels like the whole thing is closed due to smoke. Like, if you want to know what really happened, sorry guys,
Yeah.
it's closed due to smoke. But if you don't mind the smoke, head that way or head that way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It really does feel like that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So this picture again brings back that idea of, often when you go to a place, so if you had to go to the Grand Tetons, for example, where Gabby Petito lost her life, I think you would get a sense of the magic that Gabby and Brian were going through, and the scale of everything. And meanwhile, in other words, it's this incredible fairy tale, but also the sense of I'm losing it. I can't have it. I can't control it. It's coming out of my grasp. And in this particular case, the fact that Kiely grew up in this adventure capital in a way, in this place that is about, I don't want to say risky living. I don't mean it in that sense, but I mean it in the sense of you go out into the outdoors and the unknown, and you have adventures. The whole party was in a way an adventure for a 16-year-old girl that's become a senior early. Adventure awaits, and you want to, it's like you encouraged to go and grab that adventure, to have that adventure, and that is something to be celebrated. You do want, after the pandemic, you do want to live, you do want to go and have these experiences. The lesson shouldn't be stay at home, don't drink, don't enjoy life, certainly don't drink and drive. But the lesson isn't stay at home and stay in bed. That's not the lesson. The lesson is go out there, have fun, enjoy yourselves, meet people, and do certain things. You know what I mean? Do certain things for kicks. As a young person, you're supposed to take risks. You're supposed to find out who you are. You're supposed to get out of your comfort zone. Kiely was doing all of that, but she was very young. She was one of the youngest people at that party, and her adventure turned into a misadventure. It happens all the time. When people go and climb Mount Everest, they go there for the adventure. They go there to be a hero, and sometimes they come back as villains or as a failure, or there's a misadventure. Someone, I feel like, weaponized something I said, where I said sometimes bad things happen in the midst of these fairy tales, where you're trying to have this affirmative experience, where you're trying to come alive. I had it happen to myself, where I went mountain biking earlier this year in March on a 3-day mountain biking epic. And the whole idea was to have an adventure and guess what happened? I fell off my bike, a totally stupid fall as well. There was no technical terrain or anything. I fell off my bike, hit the ground really hard, broke a rib. And you know what my assessment is of that? That's life. You make stupid mistakes and things like that happen. And I said that could have happened with Kiely as well. She maybe drank too much. She got lost in the dark. She drove into the water. I don't think it's foul play. I don't think she was murdered. I don't think there's a kind of cover up. What happened to her happens a lot with people who drive intoxicated, or even just drive at night, late at night. That's life. It's a horrible reality that this happens. And then they said, are you saying her being murdered, that's life? That's not what I said at all. But again, it seems like you know what I'm saying, but you're trying to twist it. You're trying to make smoke around something that everybody knows. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, I had almost that same discussion with Daniel, just talking about mistakes. And, we've had that discussion here on True Crime Rocket Science. And I just said, I was a 16-year-old girl just like her. Like, I made mistakes. I talked to him about driving by Braille when you're hit the side of the road and it bumps. He goes, oh, we called it that too. And he's like, I don't even know how I'm still alive. And I said, I know. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that too, that we all make mistakes, but to have to pay the biggest price, it's just not fair. And he said, you just nailed it.
Yeah.
And that's people are grieving, and that they're not coming out and saying anything right now, but I mean, they're still being shamed for whether they do or they don't. And the one statement that came out that we heard the least about was like the one statement from her grandpa saying, stop what you're doing, social media. You're crazy. You are hurting our family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you care, if you really do, you got into this because you care about Kiely, you're hurting her family. They're telling you the way this is unfolding, this smoke that's enveloping is hurting the family.
In a
And
situation like that, it's completely intuitive, it's completely natural to block out social media, to say, I'm going to have nothing to do with social media. And then social media becomes like an Ouroboros, a snake that eats itself. They have all these questions, but the people who would know best, so for example, it's quite a simple thing. Was the laptop Kiely's or not? So now you can have two conversations. It's Kiely's laptop and it's not Kiely's laptop. And because they don't come forward because they blocked it all out, it's quite simple. You could just say, yes, it was Kiely's laptop. But because you don't have that, you have these endless Ouroboros type, conversations.
Mhm.
Something that has occurred to me is the conversations that you just don't hear about. And that's why I like to think of my channel as a critical thinking channel. If you think about during the search for Kiely was also the search for that Uber couple. The Uber couple disappeared exactly the same time. And yet you never hear that coming up in the conversation. It's like foul play, foul play, foul play, foul play, right? And
Mhm.
then but we've already got we've got the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the Uber couple who disappeared. They disappeared and their vehicle disappeared, I think 70 miles from Kiely, and they ended up being found next to the road. And no one's saying foul play happened there. What's the difference? Why is there
Mhm.
foul play with the one and not the other? Why? So if you say I think foul play occurred with Kiely, then and you say what happened to the Uber couple was an accident, why do you say it was an accident with the Uber couple? Why? Like, you know,
Yep.
the Uber couple weren't intoxicated. The Uber couple weren't driving on a dirt road. So why is that not foul play? I mean, it's if you want to apply all of that.
That's true too. I was looking at Candy's statement that you put on the screen there. I actually wrote in my little script. I actually wrote something about that.
That's totally true. Critical thinking means exploring more than just one theory. Now, I've got to say, I get this criticism quite a lot. It's like, different to any of the other channels because you defending the accident theory or something like that. I think what they don't realize is in the beginning, I thought it could be foul play. In fact, I thought that was the most likely. Then I thought it could be an accident, and I've always felt it could be an accident. I've always had that as like number two. And then at some point, I even thought it could be almost between the two. It could be that she ran away from home, or that she's not like I've run away from home, I'm never coming back, but that she may have kind of eloped with a boyfriend or someone that her mom didn't approve of. That she's just, in fact, that was what Jagger said, was that, she's coming back. We just don't know where she is right now. And I thought that was a possible third theory. So for quite a long time, I thought it just doesn't make sense that a vehicle's missing, especially if it's not in the reservoir. That's just the first wrong assumption I made. So I don't think it's fair to say, while you are just defending your theory. I didn't come up with accident on day one like AWP did with suspicious foul play on minute one, right? I've actually been holding two or three different scenarios, some of them opposing scenarios, for weeks, right? And I think I only basically gravitated to the accident theory when where her vehicle was found. So in other words, it made total sense that her vehicle was so close to the party. In other words, if you think about it, there's no place closer. I think there is actually There's one other boat. There's one other access to the reservoir. There's one other one that's a little bit higher up. But do you get what I'm saying? The most logical assumption here, given where the car was found, is that it's an accident. If the car was found on the other side of the reservoir, or at Boca Lake, or at Donna, or anywhere else, you could start saying, how did she end up there? And you know, but in a situation where she drove herself at night in the dark, intoxicated, it makes total sense. But it's totally wrong to say you've stopped thinking critically about it. I haven't, because I've been listening to what Doug and Jared and Nick have been saying, and I've been listening to what the experts have been saying, like the medical examiner, and how they respond to that. And we've also been looking at, are their versions consistent? So Doug has gone onto a number of channels and he's made statements. Sometimes there are a little bit of differences to what he says. That's true of Doug, that's true of Nick, right? So in other words, we doing what we do with true crime is you're trying to look at, are there inconsistencies? Is there an area of doubt? What makes sense? And forgive me, but there's something wrong with you if you've been covering a case for a certain amount of time and you don't start narrowing it down, right? There's something wrong, and let me give you a good example. John Benet Ramsey is a case where at some point you've got to choose either I accept the intruder theory, or I think the parents were involved. At some point you've got to go through the one door, or you go through the other door. And I'm sorry, if 25 years later you still haven't gone through the one door, then you are a crap investigator. Because, you know, lawyers, and in a court case situation, you've got to decide, I accept that information or I don't. You don't hold it there forever, and you never, ever kind of make your mind up about it. That's what critical thinking is. That's what analysis is. You break down the information. So sure, don't rush to judgment, and that's what I spoke about in a lot of my episodes. I said, guys, you're rushing to judgment. I don't know if there's a faster rush to judgment than the AWP divers going down, coming up and saying on video, it's suspicious, within like a minute. I don't know if that, can you have a faster rush to judgment? That's the definition of a rush to judgment. So I can tell you now, although I'm quite certain of the accident theory, I would say I'm 90% certain, if not 95. There is definitely a possibility that it's still foul play. Maybe a 5%, in my view, 5%, 10%. And how I think there's a strong possibility that it could be foul play is if a phone hasn't been found. Because typically in true crime cases, when someone comes to grief, like Shanann Watts, the phone is somewhere that it's not supposed to be. Suzanne Morphy, I don't think her phone has ever been found. Suzanne herself hasn't been found either. I'm trying to think of another case. Gabby Petito, I don't think her phone was ever found, right? Gabby Petito's phone was never found. So when someone's phone isn't found, that is typically a problem. If Kiely's phone is missing now to date, I would say that's your best argument for the foul play theory, if a phone hasn't been found. Because the phone is often a resource for where you were, who you're talking with, and can incriminate the person who's responsible. So if a phone has been found, then I would say, sorry, that's your best weapon in the foul play theory. But if it has been found, well, sorry, then you really don't have much of an argument from a common sense, rational, scientific perspective. So please don't say you just like all the other true crime channels, you rush to judgment, you fixated on your theory. Go through my timeline and look at what I looked at. Look at what we looked at. Mm-hmm. Look at how our thinking evolved. Teri, I've just put in a huge monologue. I don't know if you've got anything else to say. Yeah, so that is definitely, I think, the biggest mystery right now, besides the outcome of the autopsy and toxicology, is where is her phone? right?
I agree with what Bria is saying there. I would say, according to Dad, he would not have left if that there was still a chance the phone was in there. So
Yeah, I don't know if it's true. Like, this is definitely an area that's uncertain whether Kiely's phone has been found or not. Let me say again, if a phone hasn't been found, then to me the needle goes back towards foul play. But it's like, from, if I say it's 95% accident, now it goes back to about 90% accident. It's definitely a very strong problem. But the other side of it is that I don't know. I don't know whether it is a fact that her phone hasn't been found. I think her father would have said to you when you asked him, if you said, "Has her phone been found?" I don't think he would have said, "I don't know." I think he would have said, "No." And I think the police would have been speaking to him, saying, "What does it look like?"
Mhm.
And all that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he didn't hesitate in that answer either. I mean, this is not someone who has come up with a script for if a stranger comes up and asks him this question. I mean, he just, like, I don't
Another
know.
thing that I don't know the answer to is, have her keys been found? Right? I don't know the answer to that. I suppose they could have been found, you know. But I mean, I've heard the same thing, and it's again people who want it. You know, this is happening a lot, and I think social media not acknowledging this is a problem. Is this a case that you want to believe it's foul play, that you want to believe, that you might say, no, I don't want to believe it, I'm following the evidence. Okay. What about these creators? Do you think they want to believe it? Because there's money in that belief. There's money on that side of it. There's money in the witch hunt. There's money in the sensation. There's money in the sort of histrionics of, could this person be murdered? Now, you know, like, what I find so weird is true crime is all about murder. It's like, murder definitely happened. This case is all about, could she have been murdered? Yes or no? I don't know. It's like, you get what I'm saying? In all the true crime cases we cover, the fact that someone's murdered is like non-negotiable. That's the part that everybody knows already. You know, like, nobody was like, was Gabby Petito murdered? Yes, she was. We've accepted that. But then they wanted to make it that Brian Laundrie murdered two other people as well. They want to make it worse than it actually is. This case is like all around this one thought. Could Gabby Petito have been murdered? Yes, she could have been, and that would be terrible. But it's this whole like thing, like, is that such a, people are murdered all the time? Yes, she could have been murdered. Okay. The other possibility is that she could have died in an accident. Think about how much coverage the Uber case has got, and I think the reason is because it was an accident. How much time did the mainstream media and social media spend on the Uber couple? Almost nothing. Almost just like, yes, when Kiely disappeared, so did this Uber couple. End of story. Because it's an accident. Oh, so let's not make it an accident. Let's make it something else. One wonders whether, if, just hear me out when I say this. One wonders if the Kiely Rodney case, they say, okay, we've decided it's an accident, we've done the animation, we've found the autopsy results. One wonders whether someone might go, let's go to the Uber couple and think maybe there was foul play there. Hey? That's just how that's how social media thinks. It's opportunistic.
You're right. Well, and I mean, I don't want to keep picking on anybody, and obviously anybody that's heroes, but interjecting this foul play things right as your big video is being released that people have to pay for memberships to watch. It's like, let's just add this other, like, it's just have to look at where the information is coming from. Like, Nick, if you even wanted to make more money, you couldn't just go to the world and be like, oh my gosh, I've found this big clue of why it's foul play. Like, they have a platform and people are listening, and I, it's really, really interesting dynamic there, how they somehow have control over it's control. It's almost like a brainwashing kind of thing. It's a little, more
So,
people just need to think for themselves, I guess.
so it just occurred to me that Lindsey sharing a statement with the media is now going to be a target for statement analysis, and we're going to try and decide whether Lindsey is some kind of villain, and she wasn't showing enough emotion. Somebody has said, "What does it mean by we've got this?" Now, how I took that was, "Butt out. We don't need your help. We can take care of ourselves." That's the impression I got. Just very simple. We can take care of ourselves. We don't really need your help, whatever that help, I guess, is.
That's exactly how I took that. I mean, I didn't think that really even needed to be questioned. People take that personally. You want to know why? Because what she said is true, and the truth
Yeah.
hurts.
Just doing says, I want to know why you aren't looking at all areas. I have. So I started, when you look at my first videos, I started by looking at Kiely's social media for starters. I obviously did what everybody else did. I looked at Jagger as well. What I think social media are quite naive at, and maybe even the true crime community, I don't know, you must ask yourself, if I ask you, are you part of the true crime community? And you say, yes, I am. Then I say the next thing, do you ever ask yourself the simple question, does this person that you suspect have an alibi? Do you ever kind of ask that question? And then do you answer it? So that is like the most obvious, like kindergarten 101 question that you ask whenever you suspect somebody. So in the Amanda Knox case, quite simple. You say, I think Amanda Knox is innocent, or I think Amanda Knox is guilty. Well, let's ask the obvious question, does she have an alibi? And the answer should be quite simple. It should be yes or no, right? And the same applies here. Does Jagger have an alibi, right? You might say, I don't think that he does. Okay, you don't think that he does. Do you think law enforcement have asked that question and answered it? You might say, I don't trust law enforcement. Yes, but do you think law enforcement who right there have asked that question? Do you think law enforcement asked Sammy? I don't trust Sammy. Yeah, but do you think law enforcement asked that question? And so you might say, I don't think that person has an alibi because I don't believe it, because that and that and that. Yeah, but it's actually quite simple to prove an alibi. Where was your phone? It's quite simple, right? And again, it's the same like the tow truck guy. Nobody wants to take these arguments to the logical conclusion, which is that it's absurd, right? So when you say, I don't know whether that person has an alibi, well, find out. And what do you think the answer is? To be honest, I don't know either way. It would be great if Jagger could answer that himself. He could say who he is with and where he was. As far as I know, he was in Napa Valley, hours away. That to me, I wouldn't be surprised if that absurd answer, which is like he was nowhere near where this is all about. But the other side of it is just going from their own text to one another. Kiely was basically saying, I don't expect to see you tonight. And Jagger was saying to her, I don't expect to see you tonight either. So why would he go there? And as far as I know, they weren't even in a relationship. So why would he go there? But if you want to turn it into a witch hunt, that's what social media does. It's the the unfun conversation is the one that we're having now, is where you say, no, he has an alibi, and I really don't think there's anything that shows that. The fun conversation is where you go, could he have been involved? Could he have been wanting to keep a relationship with Kiely, and he saw her with another boy, and blah, blah. That's the sort of movie, the Lifetime movie version. That's the thing where you get 4,000 people in chat, but that's not what happened. And then you speculate on the next thing. So, when you say you aren't looking at areas per normal, it's not normal to look into certain things that don't make any sense. That's not normal. So just to be fair, I did go through all the lines of inquiry everyone else did. I just reached a decision with them. So, and I must say, I see, Teri, I sort of see information all the time that's just misinformed. So, for example, someone will say, where was Mags, or something like that? Well, Mags was at the party for a few minutes and then left with her boyfriend. Do people know that? Do people actually know the timeline quite accurately? To me, it's just ridiculous. You and me talking about the road. Could she have taken a wrong turn? It's like, here's the map. You can see the map. You've been there in person. So what is the argument about? Why is there an argument?
Well, people, once they make their decision, they just vehemently defend it. It's like you can't ever backtrack and say, I was wrong about that. That seems to be a really hard thing for people to do in true crime.
It definitely does. It feels like no matter what you say, people will say, yes, but, or but I believe that, or but the tow truck guy, or but what's the other one? But she was in the hatch area. And then you go to the trouble to indulge those comments, but it's like the Titanic. No matter what you say, it still sinks. No matter what you say, there's a yes, but. But then I don't know. Is there any point in having these conversations? I don't know.
I think there is, because there's definitely a shift in these communities here, and I think everyone just needs to ask themselves if you really want to be a part of the solution, or do you want to be a part of the problem. And
I seriously think that we need to start being very clear about what is a true crime channel, like what is a real true crime channel, and say that's actual true crime, that's fake crime. It's not the word true doesn't belong there. That's a fake crime channel. That's a sensational crime channel. That's a gossip channel. That's a speculative channel. That channel speculate, not channel so much as a genre. So there's a true crime genre, which is where it's investigative. It's trying to find out what really happened. And I don't know why I even need to say this. Genuinely trying to find out what happened. Genuinely seeking the truth. Genuinely finding out, what has happened, right? That, in other words, true crime is true crime. And so let's be clear about that. Let's be clear about who is in true crime, really in true crime. And then let's be clear about those who are kind of pretending and playing the true crime game, which is, let's throw shade at someone. Let's put up red flags. Let's create a frenzy. Let's create a feeding frenzy. Let's get people all riled up and turn it into a witch hunt. And I think there should be a genre for that. I don't think the word crime even comes into it. Not true crime, witch hunt. This channel does witch hunts. That channel does witch hunts. And a witch hunt's quite clear. Whether this person's guilty or innocent, and a really good example of that is Nicole Kessinger in the Chris Watts case. Whether this person is guilty or not, I don't really care. I want to have fun getting into the posse and chasing after this person and running them into the ground because I don't like them and it resonates with me. And I don't need any evidence, but I love this discussion. I love hating this person. In other words, I'm actually a hate views channel. So in other words, there's true crime, there's witch hunts, there's gossip and tabloid, there's endless speculation. And that's the other side of true crime, where it's let's speculate openly and publicly about whether you murdered this person. It doesn't matter that you're 18 years old. Let's go, oh, I see a red flag, red flag, red flag. Oh, it's not that person, maybe it's that one. Red flag, red flag, red flag. That's actually defamatory. I don't know if you know that. So, and then and on and on and on. That's reckless speculation. You shouldn't be doing that. It's reckless speculation. How would you like it if someone did that about you? When you are genuinely trying to solve a case, you also speculate, but not in a reckless way. You go, where does the evidence take us? That's what you do. But you don't like go willy-nilly like a pinball machine from one suspect to the next, and it's a great conversation. We had fun. We had 4,000 people in chat. That's not true crime. I don't know what it is, but it's not true crime.
I know I see people get really riled up too. I mean, you can just tell how someone's typing, or if there's people on panel, like it's really riled up, and to the point of like needing to like take deep breaths to like come down. People are like yelling at each other, and I don't know. To me, this is learning, exploring, problem solving, not problem creating. I'm not really sure. I just think there's a crossover of genres happening. It feels like it's more entertainment.
Yeah, I think. Wow, where have you gone? Let's do it like that. I do think it's like fan fiction. I think, I bring this up quite often, Teri. You'll know. I'm actually not a true crime buff at all. I'm not really, and I wasn't before the Oscar Pistorius case. I wasn't a true crime person. I was interested in some of the CSI stuff, some of it. I wouldn't watch it endlessly though. When I got into true crime and I wrote lots of books about it, I had to kind of ask myself, because I didn't find it particularly meaningful. It felt very like blaming, finding people to blame and very victim like, let's all be victims in this, that happened to that person, this has happened to me. And I didn't really find that very affirmative. And so I do ask myself, how do I make this meaningful for me? And I started thinking about it in a very cerebral way, where I thought, to me, what is happening, in other words, in a way, I'm seeing true crime almost like I'm totally outside of it. In other words, I'm seeing, how is this story evolving? How is the media participating? How is social media participating as a whole? How are the family participating? Almost like a alien hovering in a spaceship, looking down on these alien beings below and saying, what's going on here? Why are they behaving in this way? What's the whole ecosystem, taking place? What's going on in the cultural zeitgeist? All these very cerebral questions. But in the most basic way, the question is like, how are we, me as well as you, but how are the collective we, how good are we at seeing reality? So a crime has taken place, something happened to rip the fabric of society, something happened to injure someone, a community has been wounded. Can we look at this certain set of circumstances and see reality for what it is? And also, how good are we at doing that? And also, to some extent, how quickly can we do that? Can we look at something and go, I see what's happened here, right? And the Kiely Rodney case is a great example of how bad all of us were, and I include myself, how bad all of us were at saying, you know what, you know where I think she is. I know, where you think you'll find her. In other words, what you want to do is look for a 16-year-old girl and her vehicle, but we can't find her. Well, where should we look? Maybe we should look somewhere else. Maybe we should look there. And isn't the answer in terms of that question, how good are you at reality, that we're not that good, that none of us before Kiely was found were that good at it. And you can rightly say Adventures with Purpose were the shining stars, and they looked at it and they found her because they were curious and they were looking in the right place. But even they didn't go to the logical place to start in hindsight. I don't want to hold that against them because they did fantastic work. But what I'm trying to say is
Well,
the
they started
evidence.
at the logical spot if they had the wrong spot for the party.
Yeah, if you yeah, that's right. If you take that same praise that I've just given them and you say they did a fantastic job, they found her really quickly. To be honest, I don't think you can say the same thing about what they did immediately after that, where they say, I think it's suspicious. Even if they did think it's suspicious, I think you need to wait a little bit before you do that. And what they've done ultimately is they've gone on a massive influence campaign going on to all the channels saying the same thing. So is it any surprise that everyone is saying, yeah, obviously it's foul play? Everybody's saying it. Why aren't you? Because it's not logical. I'm not like you can have 2 million subscribers or 200,000 or 20 million. I'm not going to be like, oh, because you've got 2 million, now that makes sense to me. No, I just don't work that way. Sorry. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to, I'm here to try and figure out true crime. That's why I wrote 100 books. If I was trying to make money, I wouldn't write books on true crime. Definitely not. I studied the law. I care about justice. I care about the truth. I really care about the truth. I don't really have that bone in my body where someone comes onto my channel and because they're very influential, I turn over and I become like what do you call it? Like like my dog is like a social butterfly. He'll like go out and you'll meet complete strangers and then wag his tail like anything, and you know what I mean. And it's like, dude, where's your loyalty? You're my dog. You know. I don't have. I'm not like that. I am. I've got maybe a too strong sense of identity or whatever. But I really care about. To me, there's this weird thing where true crime is like this game. Let's play this game, and to me, it's like, wow, reality and the truth is actually a very rare commodity. It's actually like something that very few people take seriously. It's like the idea I get, Teri, is almost like because reality is so hard, so difficult, it's such a difficult thing to do seriously. Because the truth is actually so slippery, the truth also kind of evolves as your perspective changes, the truth also changes in a way relative to yourself. I mean, think about the Sermon on the Porch over time, how you see it differently. But what I'm trying to get at is what is my point? Oh, that the truth is actually very difficult. And when you've covered court cases, when you've gone from the beginning to the end, like Oscar Pistorius, another one is Henry van Breda. Even after they found him guilty, they said, you know what, this court doesn't know what the motive is. So even when you get it right, even when you pay so much attention, the truth nevertheless is elusive. And that's why I find the pursuit of it, this dogged pursuit of it. And it's like, yeah, but you can't make money out of that. The dogged pursuit of it, the just how few people care about it that much that you actually go that route. That is to me the challenge of it and the importance of it and why it's meaningful. And I think when you do try to find the truth, there's a weird sighing of relief from society where it's like, when you know, for example, when Kiely was found, I don't know if you know what I mean. Although it's a horrible thing, there's a weird sighing of relief where, well, now we know this is where she is. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
because there's so much fraud and fakery and fiction, it's almost like we are constantly floating away from our own lives. And there are moments of authenticity in our lives. I often say the most authentic moment is when a criminal commits a crime. That's when he's showing who he really is. When a criminal commits a crime, what he does in those moments is his most authentic moment. That's him deciding this is who I am, this is what I intend to do, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really missing from the talk about Kiely Rodni in a general sense, but if you have that true crime hat on, is what's the motive? No one, if nobody close to her did anything to her, then what's the motive? People tend to not hurt someone and cover it up that they barely know, just generally. A lot of crimes are um, based on dynamics. And so what's the motive, firstly, and what's the motive of 300 people covering it up? Why on earth would 300 people who come from different places all over that don't have anything in common, why are they going to cover something up? It just doesn't make any sense. But
there's no shortage of theories on that for sure. I think it's having to think of your own mortality is a difficult thing, and I think a lot of people want a villain because nobody wants to think they can run off the road and die like in a split second. It's over. It's a hard thing to come to terms with, and it's just easier to think that someone else stole them away.
someone asks me, but I'll defer first to you because I've given a bit of a speech here. By the way, what time is it in California? Is it like midnight?
Yeah, about midnight. It's okay.
Do you wanna speak for another 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll let you go?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. So what do you think the answer is? By the way, Bria's from France, so she's on the same time zone as I am. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here. How do you think the passenger window got broken out?
You're asking me? Oh, okay. Yeah, you were deferring to me. I don't know that that's been confirmed yet that it was broken or just down. There seemed to be in the Adventures with Purpose video not a lot of glass around there at all. So I don't know. That is an unknown, and that's a pretty important one. But
so I think the first point to clarify is it's the passenger window in terms of the front seat passenger window. The passenger window was broken when Adventures with Purpose went down there. So in other words, it didn't break when the vehicle was salvaged, when the vehicle was turned over. So first of all, it's true that passenger window was found broken, right? I think there are two possibilities. So if you think about the driver's window breaking when the car was turned over, I think it's totally possible and even plausible that when the vehicle came onto its roof, I'm talking about at the time that the vehicle went in and it then turned upside down and landed on its roof, that could have broken the passenger window, right? In other words, it's an inversion of the salvage. The inversion of the salvage is when the vehicle was turned over, the window broke. Well, when the vehicle went in and it turned over, it could have broken as well. When you look at the photos, you zoom in and you look at the photos of Kiely's vehicle, you need to zoom in actually quite far. There's the dent in the door and the broken side view mirror, that's certainly true. But there's also a dent above the left wheel mudguard, a slight dent, right? Mm-hmm. When you look over there, you actually notice there's actually quite a substantial dent in the hood. The front part of the hood has got a substantial dent that's actually, what's the word? It is a deeper, a more serious dent than the dent in the door by a lot. It's a lot more dinged in. And then there's another dent in the roof, the roof in the front area, which seems to show that the vehicle landed on the bed of the reservoir quite heavily. It seems like the vehicle kind of went in, and again, I'm speculating, I don't know, but it seems like it went in at a speed enough to take it quite deep, and it's deep in terms of when it went in, not deep in terms of now. And then at some point, the vehicle turned over, but it's still floating, and then it hit the ground of the reservoir actually quite hard enough to dent. Bear in mind, the engine is the heaviest part of it. and the hatch area is the part that's floating, and that's sort of basically abdomen up to the reservoir. So anyway, to answer the question, I think there are two possibilities. The one is that it broke going in, and it was definitely broken when AWP arrived. The other possibility, which I honestly hope is true in a way, just because, I don't know, I suppose it doesn't matter, but the possibility I prefer, I don't know which one I know is the better one, the one or the other, but I like to think that Kiely actually kicked it out. I don't know whether she would have been able to think that quickly and move that decisively, but she was 16 years old. She was strong. She was feisty. I think she was quite courageous. Living where she lived in the Lost Trail Lodge, I think made her quite a, what do you call it, a self-sufficient kind of person, quite an independent person. And there is a video of her kicking her boyfriend, kind of in the crotch area. So you kind of get the idea that she, and I don't know, you just kind of get the idea that she is quite athletic, right? That's the first thing I would do as well. I'm not Kiely, but I like to believe that she tried to kick that glass out while the vehicle, shortly after the vehicle went in. I know you can't kick it out when it's underwater. People say that you just can't with new vehicles. With enough force, you can. And I live in South Africa where they break vehicles, every single windows. Doesn't matter whether it's new vehicles or old. They break vehicles' windows every single day with hijackings. So if I thought you could drive around and it's impossible to break your window, it's you've got to put a special treatment onto glass for that to happen. Maybe Kiely's vehicle had it. I don't think so. But even if it did, you could also kick out. If you kick it out with enough force, it takes 2 or 3 tries and then the glass goes out. It's really not that hard. It's glass. It's not steel. I would like to believe that she kicked it out, but unfortunately then I think she ran out of time and then tried to escape the rush of water. And that's how she started moving to the rear area. She may then have realized that bear in mind it's dark, she can't see. She may then have realized the rear driver's side window was a third open, 2/3 open, 1/3 up. But then I don't know. I don't know if once the water comes in, once the vehicle starts coming in, it's not like it comes in slowly. It can come in really, really quickly, and the vehicle actually can be in a vertical position. So I really don't know if she would have been able to go from the one seat to the other, but I do think she was following the air pocket. I think she was following the air pocket, and if you think that's, you're just speculating. It is speculation, but it's based on 2 myth-busting episodes where he does exactly the same thing. Would you try and escape the air pocket? The answer is yes. So yeah, I'm going to talk about the whole she was in the hatch and she was tied up thing. But I don't want to talk about it from my perspective. I want to talk about, because I've done that already. No one cares what I think. I want to talk about what the chief medical examiner says to Nick Rinn and how he responds. So I get it. You don't know you don't know anything. Well, let's hear from an expert, and let's get the expert from AWP, his response to the expert, and see if that changes anything. Right? Let's have that conversation. And I am going to have that conversation, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. Sorry, Teri, that was another speech.
You're doing good. It's a good time frame for you. You're on a roll.
Yeah. Well, the sun is coming up. I mean, I'm just warming up, basically. Okay. Is there anything else you want to add, Teri?
I was looking through my script. I think it didn't go in order, but I think I. It didn't go in order, but I think I. 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 I think I I think I touched on basically everything.
So I just want to deal with distracted. Sorry to interrupt you, Teri.
Mhm.
It does make me wonder, do people think that you just don't think this stuff out? Do people think that it's like an easy answer for everything? So distracted says you try with everything you had to swim out the window that you just smashed out. When
Water's
you,
gushing.
yeah, no, exactly. When you go and do the research and you look at demos of this taking place, right? And I've put up links to at least 3 of them. In other words, you show a vehicle going into the water in real time, right? It's all timed. You see it happening once, then another time, then another time, then another time. Now, I'm sure you can make the argument that if 99 times out of 100 a vehicle sinks in 30 seconds or 40 seconds, that Kiely's vehicle stayed up for 10 minutes. You can make that argument, but it's a dogmatic crap argument. It's the argument that something that normally happens didn't happen here. Okay, well, you can make that argument. But when you look at all of these episodes, they show you that it's around about 30 to 40 seconds the vehicle reaches a critical mass and then the water floods in, right? And all of these are filmed in the daylight, and they filmed where the person expected the person knew they were driving into the water and they knew what to expect. So in other words, I'm prepped for what's about to happen. Kiely wasn't. It's happening in the daylight. That wasn't the case with Kiely. But what we do know is that it takes around about 40 seconds for whatever you're doing, whether you open the window or not, for the water to come in. So if Kiely moved really quickly, she probably would have had 20 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds. I'm saying if she recovered from a shock and she moved quite quickly and she got the window out, all of which is a little bit hard to believe, but it's possible, that she would then have about 10 seconds to get out that window that she opened before the water rushes in. So in other words, you've kicked the glass out, now you've got to turn around, but the vehicle's also turning and tilting and it's dark. Now you've got to turn around and go to that water, and bear in mind, she may have been using her phone as a light source. She may have been using her phone. If it's close at hand in the vehicle, then once she hit the water, it's possible that her phone flew into her feet area or that she couldn't find it. But if she could find it, you would imagine she would use that as a light source. But once that water comes through the window, if she goes into that water, she's going to lose her light source as well. And in a situation where it's life and death and that darkness is death, you're probably going to want to keep the light on. You're probably not going to want to swim into that gushing torrent. Now, when you actually look at the video and you see there's one that's just called Sinking Car, you can search for it on YouTube. It's just called Sinking Car. There's an old lady who drives into, and I think there's a camera in the vehicle and there's a cameraman outside the vehicle. And she drives into quite a shallow lake or pond, and all the windows are closed, and she's got time to quickly unroll the window manually. I get that Kiely's wasn't like that. And then this lady gets out the vehicle within about 10, 15 seconds, but she knows what to expect. I've seen others where, like Mythbusters, the guy drowns both times. He knows what to do and he can't do it. The one time he tries to kick out the glass and he can't, or he tries to open the, I think he tries to kick out the glass. The other one, he tries to open the door and he fails both times. And he ends up in the rear hatch area as he's trying to fight for his life. So when you know what the average time limit is here, it's very hard to imagine that she would be able to kick it out and have time to get out before that water gushes in. It doesn't just slowly trickle in. It's like a wave, and it's a black wave of death coming, and it's totally unexpected. I think she would more likely want to get away from it. I think I don't know about you, Terry. Watching that footage, it's like the car goes into the water, and then it's like nothing happens. It's this weird thing. It's like the car goes in the water, and then nothing happens. 5 seconds go by, 10 seconds go by. It's like, wow, nothing's happening. 15 seconds go by, and then suddenly, when something does happen, it happens really, really quickly. Once it fills up really, really quickly. So it's like a weird dichotomy of nothing happens for what feels like quite a long time, and then a lot happens very, very, very quickly. It doesn't seem to make sense. But what's happening there is the car has flotation, and then it loses flotation. And when it loses flotation, it loses it very, very quickly. That momentum from flotation to sinking. Think about it. A car is a balloon, but with very heavy pieces of metal and everything else. Once the balloon part of that car is filled with water, it's just a metal tomb, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's not something you get to practice. I mean, you can play it over in your head, but it's not something you're going to be able to practice. And thankfully, I mean, a lot of us are thinking about it now. I mean, I've thought about it. I don't think I would have gotten out of there, and I'm pretty tough, but dark and cold, and probably not even realizing that you even hit water until you're getting wet, and then flipping upside down. It's just, yeah, it's tough. You can't practice it. They should have simulations for people, I guess. Maybe, when we live in water world.
Teri, when you say my dog wants to go for a walk, but when you say
hi, Timmy.
When you say I don't think I would have survived it, before seeing that footage, I would have said, yeah, no, I think I would survive it because I'm quite a good swimmer and I'm used to water and whatever. But having seen that footage, it's like, dude, you need to work extremely effectively, and this is in an electric car with you can't, if you're in an electric car and the car, with electric windows, and the car gets wet, all of that electricity now is gone, and now you can't get the window down. Now you're trapped in the car. You can't open the door either. So it's like, do you think you can, in a moving object, do you think you can move yourself in a way that you don't normally do in a vehicle? Move yourself, kick out the window, and then turn around and get out that window in 30 or 40 seconds. Now I'm talking about, I'm going to try and do this in my vehicle. I know I'm doing it. It's in daylight. I can see, and I know exactly what I've got to do. When you see that it's like 30 seconds, it's not really enough time. Even if you kick that window out first shot, I'd actually like to see someone actually demonstrate doing that, where you've got to kick it out and actually getting it right. I think a gymnast and I don't know, someone with lightning speed might just get it right, and also someone who swims through that wave might just get it right. But I think 90% of people wouldn't get it right. I really, and maybe if it's a specific vehicle that takes 10 or 20 seconds longer to sink, that could be the case. But I mean, when I watched those videos, I was like, I would have died. I wouldn't have made it. It is definitely quite scary. Definitely is quite scary. You don't tend to think of that aspect, that these windows that work once in water just wouldn't work. We've all been in that situation. I think a lot of us have been in that situation where it's been raining a lot and you drive through a deep puddle. Everything just shorts out. The car, everything goes out. The lights go out. The ignition goes off. Well, that's what it's like in the lake, except you've now got to get out the vehicle, but you can't. Tom Rose,
even the Mythbusters and the videos you're talking about, I mean, obviously we're seeing it, so it's daylight. So you just have to then imagine it in the dark, which is just about impossible to imagine.
So Tom Rose says, why did Nick say he could not remember if it was Friday, Saturday, or Sunday? That to me is if you're even going to take that seriously, that to me is the biggest problem. You know, one of the things that you look out for in true crime is urgency, right? You've got a witness who thinks that something is like the Amanda Knox case. She goes into the room and it's like, I think something is wrong. Where you have a witness within a situation where someone has died, you've always got to ask the question, are they showing the right amount of urgency? Are they showing the right amount of intentionality? And this guy doesn't. He can't remember when he was where. He also doesn't even know Kiely was missing when everybody else did. It's just missing that urgency, right? You would also imagine that if it was so important, that he would probably take a photo of the footage that he had on his dash cam or whatever. That's a bit of speculation on my part.
Didn't he say that he had actually already gone to law enforcement before he crossed paths with AWP?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But I think all of this happened a week into the whole thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he'd already contacted who he needed to. Was he not getting? Was that not going anywhere?
The other thing that I think is interesting is this guy's AWP star witness, and then you've got to ask, did the star witness help find Kiely in the end?
Mm-mm.
If you say this guy's incredible, is providing incredible insight into this, we are learning so much. Well, where the vehicle was ultimately found was nowhere near Boca. There's no point searching Boca. So what's that got to do with it? Like if he was at Prosser, then, and certainly in this area, then you could say, wow, he must have seen something because he was right there. But the fact that they're totally separate, it's like, oh, we're not going to think about that. I find that broken reasoning is if Kiely's vehicle was found in Boca, then you would say this witness circumstantially is extremely significant because that changes everything. It changes the location, and it now makes sense why they didn't find anything in the Prosser Lake, right? But they didn't find the vehicle in Boca. They found it in Prosser. Boca Prosser. I don't know.
Yeah, it gave Adventures with Purpose a reason why they went to to Boca first. I think it's kind of interesting. It felt like they needed to tell people why they didn't go to Prosser first. Like they needed, well, we had this great lead that came right in. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. I want to let you go because it's getting late. You've got to get to work tomorrow or later today. I want to just finish this conversation just by looking at this picture. This is a picture you took at the celebration. It's obviously a very young Kiely, maybe 7, 8 years old. I don't know, even younger, maybe 6 years old. And I don't know, there's something very moving to me about this picture. She's fancy free. There's the ocean behind her, the ocean of truth that is so hard to get to in this case. There's this young free spirit who's running along the shore, and yet we can't see her face. And I feel like that's what's happening in this case is people that are covering this case refuse to see her face. They refuse to see the person that she was. They refuse to see Kiely, and instead they want to engage in a witch hunt. That's what I think's wrong with this case.
Everybody stopped looking at her pictures a long time ago. Nobody even looks at her anymore. They know more of, what all the friends look like, and It's
Yeah,
gorgeous picture.
is this really about Kiely, or is it about something else?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I've really been honored to be a part of it. It was just too close to me not to, and I don't know what I expected to get out of any of it, but I do know I got more than expected. I actually connected with people. Like it's a very, very rare experience, and I just I wouldn't want to share that anywhere else. I mean, it would just be picked apart. I just can't subscribe to that. I don't do that in real life. I don't do that in true crime life. That's just not how I am as a person. So I thank you for having an excellent platform to share this on and be a part of. I wouldn't want to share it anywhere else. So thank you. I don't
Terry,
know
do you
what's happening
see?
in the chat though. I haven't seen the chat. I
Terry,
know.
Deborah says you're worth your weight in gold, and I want to thank you for. I don't know. I was touched by your journey. I was touched by your photos. I was touched by. I was really appreciative of the genuineness that you brought into the story. I just felt grateful for that. I felt, as even as an investigator, I care about certain things, and you brought that to the table. But you also brought much needed sensitivity, much needed humanity, much needed. I don't know if you think about it. To some extent, what's new about this case is the guys in it. True crime is usually the people who are talking about true crime are typically, just in terms of my experience, female. And this is quite a unique case where you've got guys, quite sort of macho guys, coming in. And it seems like they are totally, it's not just AWP, there's another influence as well. But it seems like they are totally influencing the story, totally dominating the story, but in a way to me that seems like it's twisting it, distorting it. And in your own small way, I feel like you brought a sensitivity to it, a genuine sensitivity that I think is lacking, and also a humility. I love the fact that you didn't come in there and stormroll and sort of run up to Lindsey with your phone and say, you waited for the right moment. You introduced yourself in a caring and sensitive way. You in a way put the true crime thing aside and became a person, right? um, I was really grateful for that. I'm also grateful for your intelligence and your sensibility, where you're not like, the flip side of all of that is you get emotional. It's all an emotional thing. That's not the I don't want to say the right way, but in true crime, you don't want to be overwhelmed by emotions either. You want to be sensitive enough to feel something, but you also want to keep your finger on the facts as well. That's what we try to do. So I just want to say I appreciate you going there not once but twice. You didn't just go there. You didn't go there
Three
and stay in a hotel.
times.
Three times. You actually stayed at the campsite. You
Yeah.
stayed in the campsite. You roughed it, and that you can't get a better firsthand feel and sense than doing it the way you did. And I think you will have found what a rich and meaningful experience it is. It's not just the true crime story. It's you going out to a new place, to a new fabric, to a new community, and finding it meaningful, being touched by it. That's what I want true crime to be. Not like a shallow, superficial witch hunt. I want it to be a meaningful way that you connect with other people that have been wounded, and that you help them and you edify them, and you shine a bit of light into their darkness, not add to the darkness and add to the smoke. That's what I want true crime to be.
Yeah. Well, the town and the people themselves, it's really a gem. There just isn't another town like that, which helped facilitate that. It wasn't just, a little blip on the map down a highway or something. Like, it has history and culture. the landscape. It's rugged people. It's real people. That really made it easier. There's a lot to work with. Just the landscape, the tapestry, the people. Felt very fortunate to be a part of it for a little bit. And I love camping, so that was no big deal. I'll go do that anytime.
I'd love to say I love camping, but the last time I camped in a tent at the top of a mountain was super traumatic. I couldn't sleep. It was just horrible. So like that made me think, you're not cut out for Everest. Don't try. Like
Exactly.
because I think one of the primary things to enjoy the outdoors is you need to be able to sleep in the outdoors. You need to be able to switch off and go to sleep. And I find that quite difficult. I hear the flapping of the tent. I hear, and so also what made my experience pretty terrible was I was all alone on the top of a mountain, and they, like, before I went into the tent to bed down, I saw two guys, two sort of local guys walking around. And in South Africa, that can be quite dangerous. These weren't hikers. These were people who, anyway, walk around the area. And I thought, if they're two guys, I'm one guy. I thought, if they decide that they want to steal something from me or attack me, I'm all on my own. There's no, you know what I mean? And if I'm going to go to sleep, I'll be a sitting duck for somebody who sort of smacks a tent through a rock through the tent. And so for about the first hour or two, I was like listening, trying to hear if I could hear something. And then afterwards, I was like, because I actually did do this, I brought half a bottle of red wine, and I basically said, you know what? I am a sitting duck, and they could easily do something to me, but I'm going to literally not care. And so I drank that half bottle of wine, and I tried to sleep. And I was like, wow, I'm here the next morning. That was reckless, but what was I supposed to do? Sit awake the whole night, you know? And that was a horrible night. It was a horrible kind of experience. But I've been on that same mountain and couldn't get any sleep because I was cold and whatnot. I was like, you do not go to Everest.
No way. Well, camping's not fun if you're fearing for your life. I can tell you that. It's supposed to be a relaxing, calming, letting the stress go kind of thing. But yeah, sometime I'll share my Alaska bear encounter camping trips next time. But
Cool.
I know that feeling when you're not getting any sleep that night.
Yeah.
Been there.
Well, when I was in Australia, there was none of that. There was no safety concerns, but it was like the wind flapping on the tent. Anyway, but that's a separate story. Again, I just want to thank you very much for going to the trouble, the photos you took. You really did do a great job. And it once again, some of the patrons were saying how great it is, what a good thing it is to have someone from our channel go out into the field and investigate. And I think it's something we're going to do more. I'm going to try and do it. I mean, I do want to come over to the States. I do want to actually be involved, like the interview room was with the summer wells, because I do want to actually do that kind of thing at least once. But it's also good to have our own patrons that are moved enough by case to get in their car, go somewhere, and be curious and find out. And you did that. And I feel like you challenging. You didn't like decide, I'm going to go and be the counter narrative, or I'm going to be the devil's advocate. You went in, you just found out what you found out, and it's not what other people are saying, and that's useful. It's a different, even if we're wrong, even if it turns out to be foul play, it's a different intelligence that's brought to this case. It's a different view, and that's always useful. It's always useful to consider different interpretation. As opposed to everybody saying the same thing.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And when I was writing things down last night, and I thought that I didn't find anything. I didn't find any evidence. I didn't come, find a laptop or anything amazing like that. It wasn't like the panning for gold. It was more of like, I found like a geode, like this. Doesn't really look like much from the outside, but when you break it open, it's like this beautiful thing. The community just blossomed in front of me. So I just found a different kind of treasure that I wish more people could see that part of it.
Well, I felt like I got to know Lindsey and Daniel a little bit better through your personal encounters. In other words, I got a better sense of who they are as people. And I think the two things that you found out were actually three things, very big, obvious things. Like you didn't going to have to go there with a microscope or ground penetrating radar or magnets, right? The one was that you located where the party was. That was already a big shift, and a lot of people made that mistake. So kudos to you for that. It wasn't at the Prosser campground, it was at the sanctuary. That's the first one. The other one is that you found firsthand that you could have taken a wrong turn, that the route going one way and the route going the other way at night would have looked and felt the same. So you've tested that and proven that, and also shown that what Doug was talking about, a path going down, is likely he was referring to the Prosser campground, the path that's there. That does make sense to me.
Yeah.
And then the third area was, what was it? Oh, the distance from the party to where the vehicle was found is actually a bit further than Google Maps shows. It's about 0.6 of a mile, which is actually quite far. It's quite a long way to be driving. It doesn't seem that far, but it actually is quite a way. And what I've said at the beginning of this, or somewhere in the live stream, I said, when you're driving in the dark and it's a bumpy road, you tend to almost tune out all of the bumpiness, especially when you're tired, because you expect bumps. And that bumpiness actually ends in that last section of what I call the isthmus. I know it's not an isthmus, but it's a level area of dirt road, but it's level. That's where she likely sped up. And I think that is what she did. I think she did speed up there.
Yep, I think so too.
Teri, again, thanks a lot. I hope you sleep well. I hope you're going to be able to switch off now and sleep.
I will be able to. I got some closure. I got some closure. I hope her family does too. And I didn't leave there feeling forlorn. I really left there feeling just, they did a great job of honoring her. I mean, any of us would want to have a ceremony like that, and those are the things we need to concentrate on.
That's really a potent thing you're saying there, that you actually got closure. It just shows how close you are to this, that it felt unfinished, unjust in a way, and that you got a sense, maybe not of complete closure, but you got a sense of closure. It just shows how much this has affected you.
Yeah.
And good for you that you're open enough to it for it to touch you. I mean, good for you.
Yeah. I felt like all of you were with me. I wish I could have had just one of you with me would have been great, but I felt like in a way you were all with me.
I felt like we were a little bit together, because while you were there, you were WhatsApping, sending photos. I felt like even if you didn't feel like I was there with you, I felt like I was there with you. So thank you for that.
I thought about you a lot. I was like, he'll want a picture of this. He'll want a picture of that. I'm good. I
appreciate it.
I'm learning, but thank you all for listening. I know for a lot of you, it wasn't really the narrative that you wanted to hear, but it's what I saw being there. And I think if everyone could be there, they might feel a little bit differently too.
I think that's a great place to end it on. Thanks a lot, Teri. Take care. Sleep well.
Thank you. Good night, everyone, or good morning.